choice, like a mistake. This could not have been a choice to do it this way.
Interesting.
There's only one way where I think it was a choice, but it was a really fucking dumb one. And I'm going to curse now so we get it out of the way. It was dumb.
All right. I'm interested. I'm curious.
Yeah. Because I did the actual the focus test yesterday. And it was bad. It was real bad, but it was only bad because of it wasn't like stability bad. Right. It was stupidity bad.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll explain it.
Interesting.
Oh, let me fix your video feed. I have a lot of problems with camera stuff lately with OBS. It's very, very frustrating. Thank you for the help, chat, on that one. Letting me
I was gonna say everyone's been spamming it. I've also received like 3 messages on Discord about the black bar, guys.
I recorded Week in Review like last night before I went to bed, and anytime I go from a 4K version of OBS to a like a streaming version, everything gets out of whack. It never used to be that way, but with the current iterations of OBS, it's happening all the time. I always have to. I had to fix my camera this morning on stream as well. It was offset, just like Croncy's, unfortunately.
Tumblerino said that he hates me today.
Why?
It's not podcast worthy because it's very short. I basically said, someone was like talking in my chat about, hey, the like consequences in game at the moment for not necessarily PvP, but like, any type of like criminal activity aren't enough.
Yeah, and they usually agree.
I was like, yeah. Well, and I was like, I agree. And I was like, it's really weird. Like, honestly, right, if it was right now, the game would probably be better right this second if there was a PvP switch. And immediately said, that's not what I want. And then Tumblerino was like, I hate you. You suck. Why would you do this? Anyway.
Yeah, the switch should be the jump point.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. All right, that should hold me over.
Hello, YouTube. Hello, all.
We have 1 minute before we'll turn on the intro. It is mine or yours? Doesn't really matter, but
yours should be yours.
I'll take it gladly. And for the people who are listening, I put the subjects as how dumb this mission is, and some pretty major-ish changes to military-grade components and competition, but no changes to stealth, which is weird.
Yep.
And then Polaris mission, dumb. New Gilly missions are okay. And we'll kind of talk about that. But then we can do the question that you posed. But you're going to have to phrase it. Yep. Like, I'm not going to write.
Yeah,
I'm not going to put what's up there.
Also, people mentioned in my chat today that they did want to talk about SCL, specifically in regards to what they mentioned about reputation, which we rewatched like twice today, and I think people are misunderstanding, so we can talk about it a bit.
Please do, because I didn't even include that in Week in Review. So if you guys want to call in, we can talk about any of those subjects, okay?
Easy.
Yeah. So with that said, let's turn on the intro. And I don't know. Yeah, you said hello, YouTube, so we're already live over there, right?
Yeah.
Hi, YouTube. And we got 23 seconds. $15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call, the Star Citizen podcast where myself and Croncy talk about anything, certain subjects or whatever, and open up the Discord calls to you guys so you guys can include yourselves in the conversation. The show all spawned from back in the day when there was a couple of Star Citizen podcasts where only content creators talked and people felt that they had their voices were being pressed down by other content creators' opinions or whatever, and it was like, oh, I'll make a podcast where you're the voice. So we'll start out with the first like hour or so talking about the what's going on this week, and then we'll open up the calls to you. So with that said, Croncy, how was your week since last week? How's everything going?
Yeah, I'm very busy. Very busy at the
Yeah.
moment. We're in sort of the middle of like school holidays slash like a couple of public holidays. So I've been very busy at work. And then I've been playing a lot of Magic. Like I just continue playing more and more Magic each week, which means I'm playing less and less Star Citizen. But today felt good. What I played today felt really good. So
I've been like expected playing a bit of Eve, but then tomorrow I'm gonna play the Oblivion remaster.
hey,
That
nice.
was a game that kind of, you know, got me into. I think it's kind of what brought me here, to be honest. Is my brother did was like playing it on Xbox, and I was like, oh, let me check this out. Got really into it, and then Mass Effect came after that, and you know, and it kind of goes, you know, the story gets told from there in a lot of ways, and I kind of want to relive that and the jank and everything. It should be fun. But yeah, so that played X4 for the first time as well.
Nice.
Have you ever played X4?
No.
Oh,
I'm big RPG guy, but I surprisingly have not played that many like sci-fi games.
Yeah, you should try. It's a single player. It's like Elite, No Man's Sky, and Star Citizen all in one game as a single player game.
God, that bad?
That great actually, and it's like it's like and the guy who made the original Star Citizen flight model is made like redid their flight model, and it's like the old Star Citizen. So like sticks, and it feels like Star Citizen like 2.6. It's quite cool. So really enjoying that so far, and looking forward to getting back into that as well. But yeah,
I will say I do want to try. I've heard really good things about Expedition 33.
I don't know that
like
one.
turn-based RPGs are my jam. My favorite video game of all time is Final Fantasy X, and I've been hearing like really good sort of like comparisons between the two. So I'm really interested to check that out as well. It seemed like it's been a good couple of weeks at the moment for games.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just a great time for games, and it's not the best time for Star Citizen, right? So it's like, okay, I mean, I might as well just, you know, I'm really in that mode where it's like I don't care. I want to get back to my roots of enjoying video games again, and because I'm not enjoying Star Citizen that much. Like, this is what I did today. You ready? All I wanted to do was find Valakar on the PTU because Valakar fangs are supposed to be in. You saw that in the patch notes, right?
Okay.
Like, you're supposed to be able to loot them. So I'm like, all right, sweet. I want to see a Valakar fang. And then I want to look at the description and see what it's used for. Very exciting, right? Like, not really, but for me, that gets me excited. And there's a number of places you can find them, right? I think Monox is one. Daymar is definitely one. So flying around Daymar, you can find them easily, right? I find them. They're under the ground when I find them. I was like, all right, cool. Let me go on the ground and run around. They'll come out. Never came out.
Yep.
I was like, all right, fine. I'll go get a Geo because that's what it says in the journal.
Okay.
I go get a Geo. Nothing happens. All right, fine. I've seen them before at Hathor. I'm going to go solo and get keys. I solo and do an entire alignment of the whole thing. Nothing. I do an entire alignment of another one on Aberdeen. Nothing. They are a key part to many of Wickelow's turn-ins, and the Valakar do not come out of the ground in the current PTU that is open to all and is likely to go live next week.
Yeah.
Good times.
Probably likely to go live next week. I will have like one of the caveats I was going to mention is that they're probably still going to do a Invictus test before then, and there's still a lot of content missing from that.
I hope so.
typically when we're in open PTU, yeah, it's like a week or two. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's rough. I really hope it is one of those, like, well, that patch came out 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it's one of those ones where it's like, hey, a thing broke that's really easy to fix. Here's the patch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, that'll be a huge problem.
Check out this bug that I got as well. Because GQ in chat says, hey, but the laser works mostly. He says mostly, to be fair. Dude, I'd never seen this bug before. I took the key, like I did the from your backpack, the big key to align the, because I was going for a second or third one.
Mm-hmm.
Put the key in. It ate the key, did nothing. Put a second key in, ate the key, and it was just gone. And I just alt F4'd.
Yep.
That's when I stopped and waited for you for the podcast. And I've just been farting around talking to chat. And I was just like, whoa. You know?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah,
this is not
that's
good.
rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. Yeah, like my whole thing today was like, look, I'm going to test all the new stuff, or the new stuff that I can, which we'll get into in a moment. But then I was like, look, let me play live. I haven't played live, I think, since 4.1 went live. And let me just do some regular non-Hathor stuff.
Yeah.
And everything worked perfectly. It was so nice to have that experience.
Sure.
Of going into Pyro, do some Pyro missions and no issues. But I know the second that I go and do some Hathor stuff, I'm going to be like, absolutely bombarded by just issue after issue after issue.
Have you seen the new Volt SMG? Did you even know that the Volt SMG is in? Because it's not in the notes.
Yeah, I knew it was there. Someone was mentioning it today, but I have not seen it yet.
All right, I am looking for it. There it is. I got it. It's awesome. Super awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find like a place where I'm actually using it. Yeah, here we go.
Where did you find it?
Hathor, Red Rooms.
Yeah,
just cool. where you would get the other ones. Yeah. So, did I turn the intro off? I did. So we're good to go there. So sorry for double me, but that's what it looks like, and it's a permanent beam. There's no like rounds.
No build up like the rifle.
No. And what's really cool is I'm on Aberdeen right now, and this was something that was stated in the original discussions around these lasers, is I started on Daymar. Aberdeen is much hotter than Daymar, and the gun overheats when I'm outside of the building way faster than when I'm inside the building, which is very cool.
Sweet.
So this thing can do a ton of damage if you're on a cold planet, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. I haven't tested it on like Yella or somewhere really, really cold, but it is in one magazine I can kill like 8 NPCs, which is you can't say that for a lot of other guns. So it is strong.
That's efficient.
Yeah. It's strong, it's efficient, it feels really, really nice. It's pretty stable in your hand. I feel like it's probably going to get a bit of a nerf, but I wonder if the nerf already exists in the sense of like you can't use this on hot planets.
Yeah, so it's more like a decision-based thing, right? It's one of those you have to prep before you go to wherever you're going to do missions.
Yeah,
very possibly. Although even then, it still sounds like it might be a bit too good.
Yeah.
I see. Might need a somewhat of a nerf, but
sure. Best user in chat says it can fire the whole mag without overheating in very cold places. That is super cool about this one. So
that's very awesome.
Those are like the things about, like, we started off like, oh man, I had all these bad experiences today, but like those are the things that are like, wow, Star Citizen is so kind of cool sometimes, and that's like one of the like, wow, that was so cool. So here's it in action, probably a little bit more maybe. Because I don't think I really showed myself using it very much. No, there's already a fight here. I'll bring it back when I see some action. But very cool. Also, for people who like skins on their weapons and stuff, I don't know if this is going to stick into live, but there's like red Volt lasers, yellow Volt lasers, all sorts of different SMG colors. So I have a white one. This isn't what it comes standard. It comes that blue Volt standard. And so very cool. One of the coolest things in the PTU, in my opinion, so far. And did you check out the mining bags?
No, not today.
So
Damn, you just got a treasure trove of stuff to show me
Bro,
today, mate.
yeah. So I refined out of
Yep.
bags, and the bags came back this week.
Hey, let's
Yeah, so
go.
that's cool.
I did see some comments on our video from last week about people mentioning them coming back. So
Yep.
I'm glad that is a thing that happened. It is intended.
Yes.
That's gonna make life a lot easier.
Even better, they come back immediately, obviously. So, like, the
Mhm.
material gets poured out and then the bag
Yeah.
exists. So, if you have a 30-hour refinery job, you don't have to wait for the 30 hours to be over to get your bag back. You
Yeah.
can go get your bag. So, really, really great. So now group
Sweet.
mining is kind of found its place where it needs to be. The bags
Yeah.
are still one too high, but yeah, there's that. Um,
Yeah. At least the
yeah,
logistics of it is much better now.
sure. Anything that you experienced that you want to talk about, or
Yeah, so the big thing that I did in the PTU today, we've had these ghillie missions that have
yeah,
come about over the course of the last few weeks,
what are your
and now we've
thoughts
got a
on
few
them?
newer ones. So the regular ones that we had the like the scenarios, I think they're called, where it's just essentially we talked about them last week. They're the gradually accelerating ones that at the
That
very
are
end, I think
meant
it was
for
you have to find the
people.
address.
Yeah, but they're like meant for people who already know combat, because I think that they had these
Yeah,
intro missions planned but didn't tell us.
yeah. So they were like, do you know how to fly already? Do you know how to press left click? Cool, these missions are for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so now they've got a couple of new missions that are also to bridge the gap between literally learning how to fly and learning how to get into combat encounters, which are here is how to scan. Here is like here is a satellite for you to shoot, that sort of thing. A lot. They're a lot more basic even than those previous ghillie missions, which I'm hoping, because I'm not a new player, so it's not built for me, so I don't truly understand them. I'm hoping that it will help the new player experience. I will say though, we did the second scenario mission, and the AI decided to yeet themselves directly into my ship. I was almost stationary, so love that AI working perfectly as always. Uh,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah, what do you think about them?
I want to ask you a question before you do. What
Mm-hmm.
did they ask you to do? I wonder if it's the same thing every time. Did they just make you
So
do a
first,
patrol intro, patrol with an enemy, and then I forgot what the last one was. Just kill enemies, I
yeah,
think.
so it was 3 missions. The first one was the go and scan the 3 satellites,
Yep.
which is like
Same.
it's basically you do the new patrol mission, but they're like split.
Yep.
So like the new patrol mission, you do essentially all 3 of these at once. This is each mission is just one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first mission, go scan 3 satellites. One of them was bad, and you had to shoot it.
Yep. Same
Uh,
exact mission. Okay. Not
second
surprising.
one, second one, go to this location. Hey, there's an enemy. Kill it.
This is the second one that we're seeing here. Okay.
Yep. This is the
And
one that they rammed me, but I still got credit for it because they
let's
blew up too.
go.
So
Hell
that's great.
yeah. And
And then yeah, I forget the third one.
the third one is a defend
Yes.
mission
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
defend a person is getting attacked, defend them while they're getting attacked.
Yeah.
So it is essentially the new patrol mission that we got like last week. It's that. But it's just split into 3 missions rather than being one. Which is obviously like a much slower pace for new players. So I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. What do you think about the the voice lines? That's where I felt it was lacking. Like
It's the same. It's as far as I'm aware, it's the same voice lines that we've got for the regular ghillie missions,
he like
right?
he kind of like he talks to you as like a rookie kind of thing in the beginning or whatever, but he doesn't talk you through. Yeah, you're right, and that's kind of the problem. Is
Mm.
this is supposed to teach you, and like nobody's saying press T to target, and it's basically the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
feedback that we had with the ghillie missions from our previous discussions around them. Is these are not for the the regular player, so why
yeah,
are you not kind of communicating um to the player what they it kind of like puts the problem in front of you and goes, yeah, figure it out, kid. If you can figure it
yeah.
out, you can
It's
work with me.
it needs the slightest more amount of hand holding. So like
Yes.
let's use that first mission as the example, the one where they have the 3 satellites. It does tell you scan an area, and it does tell you do like a targeted scan or something like that. Once you like get close enough, but it doesn't tell you how to
How?
scan. The
Yeah.
tooltip did come up of like press tab to
That's what I was gonna
ping,
ask, because I don't know if it
but
came up
that's
for
like
me.
eh, yeah, it might have also just been good timing, to be fair, because sometimes those tooltips just come up randomly.
Yeah. Also,
Uh,
put it this way, it's
yeah,
hard to like when you're doing a bunch of things in Star Citizen, you probably aren't gonna notice that tooltip. It's not directly
exactly.
in
Yeah,
front of my face. It wasn't super loud
yeah,
and here, I have my scenario coming up as I right now as I like first get in. So we'll see if the
yeah,
tooltip pops up and tells me to scan because I don't know. Um, and I have all the tooltips up as you can see on the bottom right,
yeah.
but um,
Yeah,
so
like
far
ping
no.
area, cool. Like I think like I can associate cool. I need to ping, but you just need to tell me to ping.
Yeah,
Or yeah, the guy doesn't need to say to me press tab to ping, but there needs to be something. Even if he says like the fact that we have the voiced content means that it would be great to get more of that. So it's like even if he says, "Hey, now that you've approached the target, make sure to do a detailed scan on it." Then the tooltip comes on.
yeah.
Press this to do
Like
detailed scan.
I see somebody in chat going, "How
Yeah.
hard is it to look at your controls?" Come on, do I have to bring up
The
the
answer is very.
game? Do I have to
The
bring up
answer
the
is
game and
genuinely
show you
very.
the giant keyboard with the tiniest text of all time, and then
Yeah.
the list of 1,000 things that you don't know where to find thing on under submenu of this and that? Are
Yeah.
you kidding me, dude? What?
Not just that. In like every game, it doesn't matter who you are. In every game, you need to have that. It is genuinely actually that hard. It is not that hard for you because you have played a lot of games like this before. You've played these kinds of games. You need to come at this from the perspective of someone who the only game they have ever played is Candy Crush. They need to be able to understand all of these mechanics
Yeah.
genuinely.
Uh,
So that's what we're saying. There needs to be like that little bit extra level of hand holding, just to make it a little bit easier. So I think it's a good step. Yeah, let's get a little bit extra.
Also, these are intro missions, right? Like
Yeah.
these are missions that you are going to do once just because you feel like doing them, or the
Hmm.
payout's actually quite good for script.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. I had like what 25 script or something after doing
Yeah.
the first 3
You have
missions.
half of
That's
a
crazy.
Wicklow favor by doing 3 easy
Yeah.
missions, right?
Yeah.
So there might be a reason, but you only do these missions one time and they never happen again. They're not
Yep.
repeatable. They do not come up again. They load you in to the new Gilly missions after this,
Yeah.
which I believe those are repeatable. Maybe I actually don't know
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
As
I
far as
haven't.
well, the regular patrols are.
I've
You can like once again, these 3 missions will then set you up to do the like yellow level
mm,
patrols
mhm,
infinitely,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Which are essentially the same.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like these aren't necessarily for people who are watching a Star Citizen podcast on a Sunday during
Yeah.
4.1.1's PTU, right? So
It's
I always
important to
look
know
at
for
it
development.
like,
Like
yeah,
we're I think it's important to know, especially like we're right now at the end of a free fly. This kind of content is the stuff that matters during these moments and matters for people out there when you want to introduce your friends to the
yeah.
game
The next
so that they
free
can actually
fly,
play.
what are you going to tell them to do? You're probably going to point them towards these missions, right? So you would want
Exactly.
them. You don't want them messaging you and asking you how to scan.
Yeah. It told me to ping. I don't know what the ping button is.
Yeah, press your scan button. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's V. That's weird. Yep.
No, the scam button. That's when you buy another pledge.
Man, buy another spaceship. Ooh, did you get your military script in the hangar?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was there. It's
Yeah. So
physical.
yeah.
It's all working. So that's great. So you have something to turn into Wicklow for favor now.
Hmm.
That works correctly. And do you think it's gonna kill Hathor?
I,
You need
hmm.
Karenite still
I
for
don't.
Wicklow stuff, but
Yeah, as well as the rewards. The rewards that you'll get from the missions are going to be well, at least I hope, depending on how they balance economy, because all the script rewards could change. But I think that it's far too grindy for it to completely kill Hathor. Right, you're still probably going to be in a spot where it's worth it to do Hathor just to push a little bit faster.
mm,
Um, as I've said in the past, what I think will kill Hathor is people getting bored of it because the majority of the large groups have already gotten their prize and they're kind of done, which happens a lot in Star Citizen
Yeah, it's all small
after new content comes
gangy
out.
now. It's more small
Yeah,
gangs.
yeah. So yeah, I don't think it'll kill it, but we'll see. I am obviously still a big fan though of the fact that there is another way to go through getting any amount of favors, just because opens the gameplay up to more people.
Yeah, yeah, agreed for sure. I'm trying to think of what else. I got my first orange mission, so that was nice.
Have you yet seen
Yes,
an ace? Yep.
right after the podcast last week.
Nice. Yeah. So that's been an interesting development. I haven't seen any yet still. But,
maybe Monday. I think I streamed on Monday. I can't remember, but I did get it like immediately after complaining.
right.
And it was on a yellow mission of all missions, and I was able to loot him. He had the MG script, he had the helmet, everything. So somebody in chat saying, "How can you tell it's an ace?" It's got a big marker on it, says Ace Pilot, and I think there's a voice line as well that comes up, and it says, the mission has an optional, kill the ace before he runs away or something like that. And exactly. That's probably a good place to lead us into the new stuff that came on Friday, and that is well, I guess we talked about some of the new stuff that came on Friday with the ghillie missions,
but some of the other new stuff.
Yeah, there's basically what the next event is going to be, and it's the Slicers / Frontier Fighters have stolen a Polaris. I feel like we've seen this before. Pirate gang stole a big ship that everybody wants. Okay, great, very exciting, cool. But it's more using a lot of this new tech as far as the missions go. For the people who are watching on Twitch and YouTube live, and feel free to type this in the comments if you're not watching live as well. How many of you have seen this mission on the PTU? Literally just even seen it on the Mobi-Glass. Because I don't think anybody has.
It's going to be like 0.
Like maybe 1 or 2 people, right? I did I don't even know what the mission description looks like. Okay? It's ridiculous. So I did.
It does say in the patch notes that it will be a rare mission that doesn't come up often.
It's the event. It's the event. Like,
I know.
Okay, so that's what I want to talk about today for the most part is like, okay, it's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Eve and X4 and Oblivion. All right. But if we're talking on a Star Citizen podcast and I want to share what's grinding my gears this week, it's that. And I went and did the focus test yesterday. There's another one today in like a couple hours. So jump in there. Hopefully it's better. It won't be. But because this is fundamentally just dog design. It's horrible. It is a rare mission, as Croncy said, that comes up irregularly. Guess how many people can accept said mission, guys?
5.
1.
Oh, wow.
1 person on a 500-person server can accept this mission. 1. But they go...
Is it shareable?
Yes, of course. So it's shareable.
Okay.
So I think, because I'm going to start out with the benefit of the doubt more than what I really think, and it's just that they're thoughtless. The benefit of the doubt here is... I had chat tell me what the name of it was. It's not Overdrive. I think it was like Save Stanton. Yeah, Save Stanton. You remember Save Stanton, the Idris mission that was so difficult to complete?
Yes.
That was an open, wide, everybody gets it, go to there. If the Idris dies, you win mission. And I think that their mentality here, this one's called Hunt the Polaris. Their mentality with Hunt the Polaris is we essentially want to create an instance experience without having instances, because the Polaris is going to be like, I think it hops around. Number 1, it's hard to tell because the mission kept failing, but it hops around, I think, and it's using a lot of the new mission tech where it's like, scan down this thing or ambush it, and kind of doing some of the new missions utilizing the Polaris. Okay, and I think that's the goal. Is given that it hops around the new mining bases. Thank you, Lancer Echo in chat.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, given that it's not like going to be at a central location that everyone can go to. It's probably not going to be super PvP heavy, and you're going to be able to take you and your friends and tackle this Polaris. So the more I think about it, the more I think that's their goal with this.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we had a Polaris stress test. Not because we take the Polarises out. It's like, how many missions can we have?
I was going to say I would assume it's because of the free fly and because of Invictus. And because everyone's going to rent the Polaris and then there'll be infinite Polarises around.
Fair. Maybe this was like 20% of the test then. Like how many how many missions of these can we run? And then they realize one. And that's where the problem lies, right? Is if you wanted to create an instance PvE experience, you're listening to your feedback from your players, right? People were really sick that Hathor was like, no, we just had CZs and now Hathor, and it's like, hey, can we have some PvE stuff? You know, like the old days. And I think that's a fair bit of feedback. But yeah, so this was the experience, and then I'll let you jump in, Croncy. I'm sorry for taking up too much time here, but yeah, I had experienced it. Croncy hasn't, so my apologies to chatters who get mad when I talk too much. Can't do anything about that in this situation. I do it right, and I jump in and I go click, 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 click. Who has the Polaris? And somebody goes, I do, and I was like, all right, cool. Can you invite to party? And then, well, the entire time everyone was like, invite. One guy has to invite 500 people during this thing to a party. And guess what happens? It failed nonstop. And then the mission comes up again, and another random in the server gets now we have to figure out, all right, who has the mission, and then bring them into the party, and then they share it with everybody, and then it failed again. And I was like pretty much done at that point. Yeah. So I think I know what it's meant to be, but I don't know if it's going to work if it's a rare mission that is constantly. You ever have like a Wicklow mission or a regional like fight for Pyro where it's like, oh, it's not where I'm at. Let me accept one, abandon, wait kind of thing. And you're like constantly refreshing the Moby Glass to get the next mission. Like if that's what this event is, that's not good, right? That's kind of shit. But I don't know. The more I've talked through it, it's less shit than I initially thought it was. But what are your thoughts on what you now know about it?
Yeah. So based on the information that you've just given me, I don't think this is going to be an Invictus only mission. This doesn't sound like an event. This sounds like this is content that is going to stay in the game like permanently. Every now and then you're going to be with your group, you're going to see the mission pop up and you're going to go for it. It goes towards something that the narrative team actually said during the Q&A this week about them wanting to make narrative content that can be repeated. So that, you know, they're not wasting a lot of that resource. Like, it is cool to get stuff for right now, but it feels a little bit like wasted resources in that sense, unless it can be used later, right? Yeah, because otherwise we would, like, no one would get to do this. It's actually like hard locked that no one would get to do this. At least with the other ones, like how you mentioned, Save Stanton. The only reason we couldn't do it is because it was buggy as all hell, and everyone was trying to get into it.
See the Idris,
but everyone had the ability theoretically to go into it. So yeah, this feels like this will be a repeated thing, and then they're just going to use it as like like Invictus is like the launch point of that mission. Do we know anything about the rewards? Because they do mention rewards.
I never saw the mission complete, but maybe some people in chat did. So yeah, I think Lancer Echoes had a really good experience there. So Lancer, please let us know, since our experiences were, you know, Croncy non-existent or mine very bad. And yeah, for people who do have good experiences, would love to know what happened. But yeah, I think what they did say in the patch notes was whatever the reward is now is not the reward at the end for the real thing.
Yeah. So that, keeping something close to the chest at least.
So Clever Bard in chat says 30 mercenary script, and Lancer said they didn't get it to complete either. So yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'd hazard a guess. Either one of two things will happen is it'll stay the way that it is, but it'll be constant, and so it'll be kind of like a cool surprise as you're playing. Hey, the cool mission that has good rewards is up. Let's go do it. Or they'll just have to like minimum like 10 multiply, 20 multiply it,
Yeah.
so that it is actually available.
Like it really comes down to, um, is it a great, like, would it be a great, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And that's kind of what I want to pose the
Mhm.
question to you guys who are calling in, because there's the ability to go on both sides of this one. Like, I think it's kind of
Yeah.
crap because you're, early on, you want, like, I'm the like completionist type. Like, all right, the event comes out. Day one, I want that event completed. That's what I want. I go in
Yeah.
there with a goal. I want to get it completed. I don't necessarily need to be world first or anything. It's just, I want to
Mhm.
get it done. I want to do it. I want to experience. It's the new thing. I want to do it. But the next step of that is, uh, isn't it cool if, like, hey, I got the event right now, guys. Let's go do it, right? Like your org mates, like one of your org mates goes,
Mhm.
yo, I got the event on this server. Anyone want to do it with me? Yeah, let's go. I haven't done it yet. That'll be cool, right? So, sitting in the boardroom or whatever, the ship sail
Yeah.
room at CIG, because that's the only place they do any work. They'll maybe they sat there and thought that that's the experience they're trying to deliver. And there's good and bad with this. And part of me is leaning more towards the, I started the show with like, I hate this. And then the more I think about it, the more I'm
Yeah.
like, in the future, as time goes on, this experience might be really nice for players. Is like,
Mhm.
hey, a rare mission popped up on my Moby-Glass. What shouldn't happen though is that the rare mission shouldn't pop up on everyone's Moby-Glass and you're fighting to get it. It should be a rare mission
Yeah.
for you, right?
Yeah. Whoops, I didn't spam left bracket fast enough. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rip you.
Yeah, like maybe it sits up there for, you get the notification on your screen. It sits up there for a minute and a half, 2, 3 minutes. And when that time is up, it goes to another player in the server, right? That I would
Yeah.
love if you wanted to do it that way. I would love if that was the way to do it, because then you have the choice. Croncy doesn't feel like doing it. He lets it pass and it passes down to
Mhm.
me. I wanted to do it. I think that would be fantastic. But
Yeah.
that's me. I don't know. Because then you get the feeling of like jackpot moment, right? And those are
Yeah.
amazing. So, yeah,
Yeah. Which they've been moving a little bit towards. One of the cool things about the Ace pilot system
sure,
is it's that additional version of like, here you're doing the regular mission. Sometimes a cool extra thing happens that has an extra reward. That's a nice system to have. It has a good feeling. It also makes monotonous grinding a lot less monotonous because sometimes you get surprised. Um, yeah.
yeah. Like somebody said, people will accept it out of spite. It is what it is in that case. You can't do anything
Yeah.
about that. But you didn't even know that they accepted it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
only for them, and I think that would be
Yeah.
totally fine. Um, Outside of that, that's all I have on the mission event side stuff, because we don't know a whole lot yet.
Mhm.
But before we go into like SCL, uh, they did make some changes to the Polaris, the 890 jump,
Yep.
the Reclaimer, military grade components, competition grade components, and a lot of things like that. So, how much
Mhm.
do you know about this? And do you want to take the reins, or do you want me to kind of go into it, since I've dove
So
pretty deep?
I'll just tell you the extent of my knowledge so far of these changes. So
Sure.
I know a lot about the Polaris changes, as always happens with everyone's favorite new ship. If a nerf happens, they are losing their minds.
Classic.
Some maneuverability changes and some shield changes, I believe, on the Polaris. Um, Nothing, in my opinion, that makes it a bad ship at all yet. Like, it still feels pretty solid. So I don't think there's a big issue there. And then, my understanding is I think military got better, competition got worse?
Correct. So, but
Yeah.
in weird ways. So we'll start out
Okay.
with power plants, and I have SP Viewer up, so it's a little bit easier for people to understand
Sweet.
and see. Um, here's like a very common military, like this was the meta power plant for many years on ships, right?
Mhm.
Small ones, the size 1 JS300 military grade A1. And this was the main theme of what they did. Take whatever number of power pips that power plant gave and raise it by one. This is a cross the board on military grade components. Across the
Okay.
board. That's all they did. But then they also reduced all of its signature by 3%. Is that going to factor
Interesting.
into anything? Maybe missile locks or something. I don't know, but
Mhm.
don't think so, right? So that's that. Let's go to shields where you actually see. Now, this might not work. Oh, it did. Fantastic. Because we know a size 1 shield. Now, this is where they've made some drastic changes. So
Oh,
your
wow.
regen rate is what's gone up by 70%,
Mhm.
and then very similar to everything else, reducing the signature by a less than 10% number, right? And I don't know what generation. I think this is just power generation, so it just goes up more power, which might mean
Yep.
need for more cooling is something there, but I don't know on that front. But yes, regen rate, not health, has been raised. So when you're,
Yep.
you get out of the line of fire for a little bit, bang, it comes back up a lot more quickly.
Yep.
So military grade is for regen, like 90s is saying in Twitch chat, and industrial is going to be for hardness, and then competition grade. Let's go shields, and the first one that comes to mind for me is Targa, because I use that quite regularly. They knock the health down, because Targa was in a similar range as industrial, but was just like better. And then they raised the
signature
because at a higher regen rate, they also lowered the regen rate. I don't know what you would use competition stuff for now. So now it's another one where it's like, all right, you nerf this one into the ground a little bit. And I wish they.
So, like, what's its purpose now? Yeah.
Correct. And given that we get monthly patches, I like what they did with the power plant. So this would be feedback for CIG on this. I like what you did with the power plant. One small incremental change. See how you like it and move from there. Excuse me. A sneeze. And slowly do it instead of these big pendulum swings and you don't know what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, you love racing.
Yeah.
What would competition class stuff, what would it do for racing? I mean, I have no idea where these
Yeah, it
fit.
it would have to like lower your mass or somehow improve your maneuverability or something, right?
Correct.
Like that's the
Fuel,
that's sort of
fuel
where it
economy,
needs to sit.
like boost,
Sure.
boost fuel,
Yeah,
something like
yes.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's certainly, I feel like, something they can do with that to make it still a relevant thing. My question
fuel.
to you in regards to these changes, so where does stealth sit at the moment?
No change.
Sick.
So that's another thing that I'm kind of putting out to commenters and people who want to call in is like, if you're not making any change to the meta component, the idea here is the whole thing is they're trying to create player choice. But if somebody fires a missile at me and I have an industrial grade power plant, I'm going to get hit with the missile, guys. There is never a reason to use anything other than a stealth drive, right? Somebody's saying stealth shields lost, so some HP. I will check and bring it up. Trying to think.
I guess the question would be, was it a meaningful amount, or are we still looking at probably some more changes?
18%.
I will concede to Tumblerino, who probably knows a lot more about this subject than I do in terms of like the playability of these changes.
This is a grade A stealth, but yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, as always, I'm happy they are making this many changes, right? Keep doing it.
Yeah. Stealth shields.
Doing it next patch.
Nobody used stealth shields though, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, they were using like Targas because it didn't affect your
signature enough.
Yeah, your signature enough. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. But that's where I'm at with that. It was like they're clearly hearing the feedback, and I don't know
Mhm.
if I don't know, man. I just continue to say that if I'm flying a vulture, why am like why am I not drawn to an industrial component? What are you going to do to
Yeah.
draw me to it? We just talked about competition grade stuff. Like you, how great would it be to have not endless boost, but like
Yeah.
boost, right? Or being able to pull
Yeah.
more G's or whatever, right? So it's just like
I mean, it seems like their answer to the problem so far, at least with these changes, is like, well, rather than disincentivizing you from using stealth, we're going to try to incentivize you to use military, see what happens.
I like that
Uh,
mentality. It's better.
yeah, me too, because like it's
Stealth is
additive
fun.
rather than reductive, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably not enough. But once again, I am like, if we're talking mining balance, I'll talk all day. Military balance, like combat balance,
I
is
struggle with it too.
not my strong suit. Yeah.
But I've done enough of ship PvP to be like, wow, Firebirds are really annoying because you can't see
Yeah.
them and the missiles come out of nowhere. But what's even more
Yeah.
annoying to me is like a medium to heavy fighter, like Super Hornet F7A Mark
Mhm.
II, that can also run stealth components and be hard to see. And it's like, I think I would love for there to be a place in this game one day where it's like set bonuses where it's like,
Yep.
oh, your stealth ship applies a set bonus to stealth components that make stealth
Yeah.
components like actually stealthy. But if you put the stealth components on your F7A Mark II, they don't do shit or do less
Yeah.
than that, right? So
And there's like it doesn't have to feel it doesn't have to feel like your typical MMO set bonus, because it also like it makes sense. Like you're using all parts theoretically from like similar manufacturers,
yeah,
right? To do a similar task.
yeah.
So they will work together to do
I,
things.
I mean, just take a peek
And
at
maybe that is
the.
something we see.
Go
Maybe
ahead.
that's something we see when we get more engineering stuff, I guess. But
Sure. Yeah, maybe. And just take
yeah,
a look at like the F7A Mark II versus the Mark II version of the Hornet Ghost, right? Like yes, the Hornet
yeah,
Ghost has reduced signature, but it also has reduced weapons that it like,
yeah,
you know, capabilities. And that's kind of the idea is like stealthier ship, reduce weapons, but like if I'm able to be stealthy and use a ton of things, like what I would love to have seen is stealth power plants, pip numbers go way down, right? The
yeah,
amount of
yeah.
power you can use. So you can't possibly run, because here's where the big change, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, month report,
Mhm.
you're going to have to use coolers.
Yeah.
One, and that's probably where we're missing all this. Everybody turns their coolers off right now. If you have to
Yeah.
have your coolers on and you're running stealth stuff, are you going to be able to full your weapons and shields at the same time and have your coolers on?
Mm,
Maybe not, right?
yeah.
So they probably have the future more in mind than we currently are thinking at this moment. And I haven't
Yeah,
run the
might
numbers.
be pre-balancing rather than
Correct.
yeah,
Correct. So we shall see. We
yeah,
shall see. Apparently they added cooling changes in the PTU. I can look it up in SP Viewer. All right, so I'll look at that, but I don't know how to understand some of this stuff. So again, like
yeah.
Croncy, I am pretty
I just
not
put on
on
what people
this.
tell me to put on.
Yeah. So I don't really know what's happening. Not cooling, but cooling parameter. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we'll
Okay, yeah,
not for the podcast. That would be for
yeah,
a stream and have somebody in a call, or if somebody wants to call in and explain it
yeah.
shortly, I don't mind because I think it would be
Yeah,
beneficial for everybody.
just
But
12 paragraphs are of all right.
yeah,
Now this is how cooling works in the engine of Star Citizen.
yeah. So what about Polaris Reclaimer 890 jump? There was a big change with the Polaris that people did not like,
Yep.
and it's the shield. So the Polaris used to have a
Hmm.
bespoke shield. It no longer does. It has the same shield that the 890 jump has. And that shield has been reduced to 513,000 HP. And that went from a Polaris that had 1 million shield HP and a massive shield bug that made it basically invincible, by the way,
Hmm.
unless bombs, which everybody knows about at this point. But the to half of that but the 890 jump has a million HP in its shield, less health. And then the Polaris has more health. So it's like, I don't know. These things are supposed to also a bunch of reductions to pitch and yaw on all those ships mentioned. They still feel fairly nimble to me, so
yeah, unless these ships get like insanely nerfed, I don't see many problems with these myself because kind of like what someone just said in chat, they feel way too solable still.
correct. Yeah.
We don't have engineering in the game yet, and so if you're going to do any sort of balancing before then, you need to make it in a way that's gonna. You want someone to be like, maybe I shouldn't take this out by myself because I can't get killed. Yeah. I personally don't see any issue with it. If you are someone that wants to call in and talk about why you might have an issue with it in terms of specifically in group play, because that's what I would want to hear about, then let us know. But right now, I think it's fine.
Yeah. I big ships should feel big, honking, and just tough to fly in the sense of like not nimble. And big ships should be kind of running up close to each other slowly and just volleying, right? And we don't have that at all. It's a lot of flying around and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's where I'm not as keen on it. But they did also make a change to the Polaris turret that made it fire slower, shorter range, but more damage. So more like brawly. And the Polaris is not a brawler. So I thought that was kind of weird because the Perseus is more sounding like a brawling type big ship to me, where the Polaris kind of sits back and fires torpedoes, right? So,
well, it's supposed to sit back and fire torpedoes. It's once again one of those things where it's like I just don't think that's how people really play it. They'll shoot like a torpedo or two off, but then pretty much immediately everyone's right on top of each other, even in like PvE, right? So maybe that could be a reason for that change. I'm not sure. That does still seem weird. Because if you want to incentivize the role of that ship to be more like what it should be, which is like this weird kind of like capital sniper almost, then yeah, don't make it shorter range.
Yeah, I don't get it. So I don't know, man. But that's where I'm at with it. So I fly industrial ships. So when I ripped out the Reclaimer, I was like, this feels good. When I flew the Polaris yesterday, I was like, this feels good. And to me, the Polaris is an industrial ship. We load cargo in and out of it. That's what I use it for. It's got great bays at the top. I don't fire torpedoes. If I could take all the torpedoes out and be happy. But I think balancing very powerful ships and making them a little bit less powerful is not a bad thing, guys. Like it's okay.
100%.
Obviously, like A2s and A1s coming in and like just disabling them in atmosphere instantly, maybe isn't an intended thing that they want to do. I don't really care either way. Personally, I don't. I'm not gonna pull a Morpheer and try and nerf some ship that you guys are enjoying flying and get in trouble. I'm not trying to. But the idea of that is probably not intended or anything like that either, right? So it's they are you can destroy them, you can disable them, but it is not the way that Richard Tyrer and whoever the other guy was up on, when they were doing the fancy talk show, and everything, and it's not the way they spoke about it then, which was like disabling the turrets and then you could bomb it with an A1. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But that's all I have until SCL. So I'm gonna give you the floor on the SCL because you brought up something that I think I missed entirely, and I've talked.
Yeah, people came into my chat today and said like, "Hey, you're gonna talk about this on the podcast. This is a big thing." And it's not. So SCL with the narrative team was this week, and this was one that I was looking forward to because I really like the narrative team. I've been liking what they've been doing with the story recently, and them being a bit more involved with like the actual day-to-day gameplay has been interesting so far this year. As well as also, at the start of the year when they said they were going to do it, myself and you did say, well, we want to see this, 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 and this, and we've seen like two of those four things so far.
Yeah,
So they've like been increasing the quality of the narrative being put into the game.
sure.
Um, so pretty cool episode from my perspective. They did like a little bit of stuff about like insight as to why certain stories are taking place, why some parts of the story are not taking place, all that sort of stuff. And then they did end up talking a lot about factions. So one thing that they mentioned, which is like sort of a big deal and will change how you play the game sort of in the future, is they want to move away from us having factions like Crusader, Hearst, and Microtech,
Oh,
and more
yes.
having factions that they deal with, right? So rather than you having a Crusader security rep, you will have a rep with Foxwell, and that will carry over. All of those locations that have missions about like for Foxwell it would be security. Like you'll continue that, right? And it
Mm.
also means when you go to a new star system, your rep will still be there because you'll
Yeah,
still
like
have that rep with Foxwell.
Foxwell will still do work in Pyro, essentially, or
Exactly.
you will be able to gain rep with them. I have
Yeah.
I apologize. I have
Hmm.
quite a bit to say about this, but I'm going to say it
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
quickly as possible. One of the coolest things from CitizenCon 2023 was when they showed the cargo missions of like
Hmm.
all the different companies that you could work for, right? And they're going in an
Yes.
opposite direction of that. Like the Interstellar Transport Guild is who you're going to be gaining your rep with. Um,
Yes. Sort of.
sort of.
At
Yeah.
least. So yeah. So those companies will still exist.
Yeah.
The reputation is a lot more concise. So now
Yes.
instead of having reputation with 12 different of the exact same types of missions, all using different boxes, you can still get missions. You can get missions that relate to those people, but the rep is always going to be,
Yeah.
more in relation to these other ones. And even within those, like you can still imagine, because there was sort of like they just don't want it to all be identical. So you can still sort of imagine, let's say you are doing uh, um, cargo, like you mentioned, there still could be a dangerous goods faction and a like to gain reputation
Red
with
Win.
a yeah, there could be just like a pizza box delivery to
Yep.
still gain rep with. Uh, and so it's making it so that it is easier for you to gain reputation across the universe.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that instead of it could be, I really want it to be. Like I
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
that,
yeah.
when I'm doing mercenary contracts that I'm not just doing them for Foxwell. That there's
Yeah.
Foxwell and five other ones that all lead up to mercenary guild
Mhm.
reputation, right? And I would be
Yeah.
fine. I would be totally fine with that. But I do want to experience, you know, I like working for this group because their colors are cool or because they're,
Mhm.
people wanted to fight for the frontier fighters or whatever, right? So things like that.
Yeah. The way that they talk about it is like even though you may not gain reputation with a certain person or a certain group,
Yep.
there will still be missions and mission chains that associate with them. So
Yeah.
like when they talked about it, it was very specific to reputation that they were discussing.
Yep. And I think that's a
Um,
good thing for sure.
yeah.
Yep.
So the next thing after that was what everyone was like telling me about, which is this idea that apparently they're no longer doing negative rep, which I feel like is a big misinterpretation of what they were saying, especially
I
because
did
earlier
not
in
hear
relation
that.
to a different question,
Yeah.
they essentially said they still want negative rep to be a thing. So yeah, so they mentioned that in relation to that, like they want to, instead of having all these different securities, you work with Foxwell, whatever. They talked about how for like major landing zones, they don't want you to have an issue where you've got a negative rep with, let's say, Crusader, and you now can't go to Orison. This is different to what they have said in the past.
Correct.
It was a while ago, but they did, they had previously said in the past, if you keep on messing around with Crusader too much, they won't let you onto Orison. I think this is a better solution because yeah, it's kind of shit to be locked out of complete, like, super important gameplay areas. But I do want to have the caveat of I still want there to be consequences to my actions, regardless of whether they are good or bad, to certain locations and stuff. I
This
fully understand it for major zones, though.
Yeah, I think in places like Orison, this all but kills the idea that a unlawful player can sneak into Orison with a pistol and blow your head off while you're at an ASOP terminal, which is
Yeah.
um, something that was always mentioned to be possible.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I do not think they're ever removing armistice zones from major locations like that anymore. I think gameplay in those areas is going to be completely tied down to just your trade, pretty much. So, like, at least that's what I get the sense of, and I am probably okay with that because I think that you still need to have access to that. The example that I will use for most MMOs, and I say most because there are some MMOs like Eve where if you have like you can get negative rep with everyone,
yeah,
and then you can't go anywhere. But in most MMOs, like if you're playing World of Warcraft and you're in Horde and somehow you'd had managed to get negative rep with Horde, now you just can't play like half the game, period. And you then have to implement ways to get it back. That would all be cool if that did exist in Star Citizen of have the ways to get it back. But I think it is probably far too many levels to make it so that someone wants to continue playing the game. You will get into areas where people will either, whether accidentally or on purpose, tank their rep and then stop playing the game forever because they can't get it back easy enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just you know we don't have to like get too crazy and overcomplicate shit too much with like uh if I'm doing missions for headhunters, I
Hmm.
do think like that your life in Stanton needs to be difficult and you should not be able to land anywhere outside of Grimhex or something. How do we get that is what I like. I do find it very odd. And I think that there's going to be not and I think what they meant was in particular having Crusader rep go down and not your personal reputation with the UEE, for example. So if I'm running headhunter stuff and I'm constantly killing UEE security,
Yeah.
do you really think they're going to let me land at Everus Harbor? Like, I think the
Yeah. No,
current
I
system
think
that
I
we
think
have
there
now,
will.
if I have a 3 or higher
Yeah.
crime stat, like, does anybody really have a problem with that? Everyone's kind of cool when they went with like, if you have 1 and 2, yes, you could still land, you could pay a fine,
Mm.
you might show up as red for a while, something like that. But once you hit 3, then you're getting like problematic, right? And you're not going to be able to go
Yeah.
there. So it's the whole thing was more the example that they gave. I think people are getting confused by is like if I'm doing a bunch of missions around Hurston and somehow get negative rep for Crusader, but it didn't really. It creates an overcomplicated system for them to design reputation in a fun and enjoyable way. And I think we're just
Hmm.
talking about reputation. We're not talking about criminal status. And I think criminal status
Correct. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
something that's
Do not
totally
confuse the
different.
two. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
Um.
reputation here. So if you're,
Yeah.
I think in Pyro is more the example of what they want to do is I can land at all of the major landing zones in Pyro. But if I go headhunters, they're telling me to kill CFP. And what happens when I go to a CFP location? I get shot at. So let's look at
Yep.
Pyro as the example of. And are we on the same page here, Croncy? Like, is that more what you're in line with, or no? Yes, because that's how I see it. Is
I
like
th-
I'm able to get to
I think
normal
so. I think
places, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think the important thing to know is just that like you can all like they said major landing zones, right?
yeah,
There will be more major landing zones than just those lawful ones that exist right now, right?
correct.
So you also have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about this entire system. You want people to have places that they can go to start the game and be safe, whether or not they have been committing crimes in the game. You want them to be able to play the game, period. And right now, you have to be able to spawn at those locations in order to play the game. I would love it to be in a situation where that's not the case and you can still reasonably play the game in other locations, but that's not going to be the case. If you the way that it sounded like to me that they were talking about is like if you are aligning with well, you can't align with frontier fighters. They specifically mentioned that during the video. But let's say you did anyway. You aligned with frontier fighters. You should not be forced for weeks to never be able to go to Hurston. And that's what it sounds like they were saying, is like they want you to be able to, like they mentioned they want repercussions to exist. They want reputation to matter. They also want people to be able to play the damn game.
Yeah, and again, nobody is getting locked out of landing at checkmate.
Yeah, exactly.
You might get shot when you go there, but nobody's getting locked out from actually landing at it.
Yep.
And that's what they're talking about.
Yep.
That would be a horrible experience. So, but I still do think you should be locked out of landing if your criminal status is what it should be. And I think most people are asking
if your criminal status is up, yeah, you should. If you try to land at Lawville or whatever, yeah, you should probably go to jail, right?
Yeah.
But if your reputation with them is bad, like once again, it wouldn't be because of what they're saying. But if it was the case that your reputation was bad, you shouldn't be able to never land there again unless you do 200 Hurston missions. That's silly.
Yeah, and I'm just typing in chat because Burks is here and almost sounding like he's arguing against what we're saying, but we're all in agreement here. So I think there's,
if you have a crime stat, there should be repercussions to your current session of gameplay.
Yeah,
maybe even like the next session, maybe the session after, right? Like some more immediate things. But if I spend 2 days doing criminal missions, I should now definitely not be locked out of Hurston next week. That's messed up.
I don't. Okay, so we are not on the same page then. I don't agree with that.
Sweet.
Okay. I think we're going to a place where there's long-term reputation, and if you, this is where I would love to see the game go, is your long-term reputation sticks with you, and if you are because this is how we attempt, I think, to remove a lot of griefing issues, a lot of player killing issues in places that are supposed to be more safe, is it has to be pain for you to be in a place like Stanton or Terra if you are constantly PKing people in those areas, right?
Sure. And I did, when we first started the conversation, I had the caveat that I do think there should be more consequences. It's that like these specific consequences of for people just doing, literal like criminal missions should not result in them being completely locked out of content for weeks to months on end. And it sounds like that's what CRG also don't want. They don't want people to be locked out of literal spawn locations for weeks to months on end.
Let me ask you a question then. You mentioned missions, and I sort of start to come on your side a little bit if their players are just doing PvE stuff. That should probably be less punishing than if they were killing.
Yes. Well, that's where you would get
players.
Reputation. That's why I'm saying missions, because that's usually where reputation comes from. If you're when we're talking about player v player, which I'm literally not in this entire conversation.
Okay,
that is a whole other.
That's why I brought this up. That's why I brought that up.
I am not talking about PvP. Neither was CIG during this video. They were specifically talking about PvE reputation with these different factions. So yes, I would want to see more systems in place regardless for like griefing issues and whatnot. But that's a different conversation for also not the narrative team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we're more on the same page with that. But yeah, I think I would love a pirate's life to be a pirate's life. Very difficult in a place like Stanton, and a lot more free and freedom, because you want players of a certain play style to be drawn to certain places. Therefore, players who are drawn to a certain play style are drawn to other places. And then everyone kind of stays separate until there's a reason to come together. But I've talked about this a million times on the podcast. Like, we need to make it so players who play in Stanton and Terra are drawn to a place like Pyro with risk versus reward mechanics. And guess what happens as well? Players who are in Pyro should be drawn to a place like Stanton for the risk versus reward mechanics. Players in Stanton are farming for a long time freely in a lot of ways, but maybe they stray out of the very, very safe area for a little bit. And that's where there's some more juicy, I don't know, Quantanium in a place like Stanton. And then a pirate can go and hit them there with the proper consequences to be on that pirate. So they can take the risk versus the reward. And then everybody is happy, right? I killed you to get something. You can't tell me that I'm just killing you for no reason. And I will suffer the consequences for doing those actions in a quote unquote, safer place or whatever, like Stanton. And I think people would come way more together on their feelings about PvE and PvP in Star Citizen if we had things like that. But we don't, because Pledge Store. And that's usually always the reason why we don't have things, because the Pledge Store is the most important thing of all time. And I don't
know. To finish my thought, the one other like big important thing to keep in mind, and genuinely may require some clarification from the narrative team, is they mentioned, the factions like Crusader and Hearst and whatnot, they don't want you to have negative rep with. They didn't say anything about not getting negative rep with Foxwell, who we just described are essentially going to be the security contractors that combine them all together.
Headhunters versus CFP guys, like it literally is in front of your face, right? So
so
I don't think they're getting rid of that.
Possibility. There is certainly still the possibility that all of those things will be harder for those players, and maybe that'll work out well. But that's more possibly an omission from them, not something they explicitly said.
Yeah.
So
Hurston or Lorville in particular, and Orison and Area 18 and New Babbage are kind of places that you don't want to necessarily lock too many players out by just doing PvE missions. It's kind of silly. But if you're PKing, and I don't call it griefing, if you're because it could be legitimate and not be for whatever seedy reasons, and then that's a totally different story. And you probably should. So that's where I'm at with that. Do we have anything else as far as like, we went for a long time on this stuff, way longer than I was expecting.
Told you the SCL one was the one that everyone wanted to talk about. But I think it'll be fine for the most part. So either way, I thought, other than that, I thought it was a great SCL. That said, that one. I like what they're doing with the stories, and I'm glad it's continuing, and I'm excited to find out what happens next.
I can't see what I normally can see in Discord. This is going to be weird and confusing.
Well, we're going to go to callers. If you want to call in to answer the call, if you are in Mike's chat or the shared chat, you can go !ATC, follow the link, head into the green room. If you're on YouTube, it is in the description underneath the video. All
right, so you're offset for a second, but you won't be for long. Let me get a caller in, and then I'll fix everything. I understand why you had a weird bar on your screen now. We'll bring in our first caller, though, and I'll bring everything up. It wasn't actually OBS. It was a little weird setup thing. All right, so
Actual Cannibal, are we here today?
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Not again, Cannibal. No.
How? So for people who weren't here last week, an actual Cannibal, we tried to bring him in multiple times and is always AFK. So we're trying to do you the solid, man, but we can't bring in an AFK guy every single week. So you're going to kind of like get a mark on your name. Like we can't even have you as a caller. It's usually an hour, and then we go to callers. So try to, be ready in around an hour from when the show starts, and then that'll be good. All right. So with that said, we'll bring in Snugs then, and and then Tumblerino after that, and then Cannibal. We'll try him at the end, but last shot there. Snugs, can you hear us? I can hear myself.
Well, we can hear ourselves. Snugs?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello. There we go.
All right. There we go.
I can barely hear you. I could hear myself louder than I can hear you. So can you turn your mic up, get really close to it, something like that?
Is that better?
Much, much, much,
Yes.
much.
All
Thank
right,
you.
there we go. Sorry, I finally graduated from no mic attached to the headset to having a standalone on my desk. It's
Ah,
come with a surprising learning curve.
yeah.
Anyway,
Keep it real close. Get it closer than you have it right now, I would say.
okay. I guess two things. One, SCL. I agree with Croncy. Really liked it. The lore team in Star Citizen was always such an appealing thing about thinking about like all these worlds and all these characters and all this really exciting stuff. And there's so little of that actually you ever feel in the game.
Yeah, the very quickly, the like first question on SCL was like, man, lore's cool, but it's not in the game. When's it coming to the game? And then them answering with like, so like for the last few patches and this patch, we're like putting a bunch of lore in.
But like anything that I know that I'm not a World of Warcraft player. It doesn't interest me. But I know that WoW is like one of the benchmark gold standards of an MMO, and it's always fun listening to the friends that I have that play that game get into these arguments about the lore and talk about it. It's like I want the game Star Citizen to be good enough to where I can sit in a Reddit thread and argue for hours about the finer points of lore and not whether I can leave the damn hangar or not. Right?
That'll be the day. That'll be the day, Stokes.
Anyways, but I feel like a few big things that maybe you guys didn't talk about was stuff where they're like, yeah, we want to have cutscenes in a main storyline. Like that was, I thought was a big thing.
It was
Video
like kind of
logs.
implied. Yeah. Also, are you the red shirt guy?
From SitCon? No.
No,
Sadly.
from BlizzCon.
Yeah. Oh, no. That
I was making a joke. I thought you
were talking about the red shirt guy at SitCon that you and Level Cap kept talking about in the presentation. Yeah. No, but I think that I really hope that the regen crisis actually pans out into a cool storyline, because I'm really fingers crossed that it's a good storyline that sounds cool, and this is just a really, really bad intro to whatever the storyline is, where it doesn't affect the player. And because when I was talking to my buddies about it, I was like, are they gonna try to test something around Death of a Spaceman with this? Like, is this
they implied it on the show a little bit,
right? Which was really great to hear them
Jared
say, right?
Asked, and they were like, no spoilers, just to be clear.
Yeah. And I hope that, I don't know, it's such an odd thing of like in the grand scheme of things of what Death of a Spaceman is, because they've been so mercurial about it over the years of like screw it, let's just test, let's throw some testing, like, hey, you lose X% of your credits or whatever, like at least try something, and maybe we get there with that. But and also Polaris owners,
just quickly, you mentioned like, it's a bad intro. So, I mean, it feels like a soft intro to this storyline. Sure. It feels like
very much.
Well,
and
it feels like there's about to be something big, but if that happens or not,
yeah. Jared asked like, hey, is this, is there more to this story? And they said absolutely yes. So we might just be looking at like giving stuff to Wicklow where you actually get something sort of meaningful versus some crappy money, and then going, hey, this is stupid, why are you, the regen crisis is dumb. Maybe it's dumb because it hasn't really started yet, and it's like this is the Xeno threat version of the screens popping up and hearing voices and stuff is more what I hope this is.
Right. I hope we have to make some sort of meaningful choice of like, do we align with Rayari because Rayari has some sort of special ship component or something like that, and that's the only way to get it, versus aligning with, or not even aligning with, but like choosing to turn the stuff into Wikello or whatever. Like, I don't know. It feels devoid of meaning, like a lot of things in this game. And I don't know. And on the flip side, I also this week just turned in and got my first Wikello ship.
Let's go. What'd you get?
C1, which is precisely what I wanted, because I am a massive fan of the C1.
C1's pretty sick.
But on the flip side, it was really nice because like it felt for the first time in a very long time like I actually grinded for something. And I don't play in an org. I play with like 3 friends, and we had to fight for that hole so many damn times to get Karenite out. And it actually felt like, God, I spent 3 weeks working on something and I actually finally achieved it. And something that's been fun is like, nobody's flying. Nobody seems to have Wikello ships, save the orgs that, you know, grinded with their 25-man and got it within the first week of the event.
Well,
right?
nobody has them because Hathor has not worked
also,
for
and
3
also
weeks,
that.
4
and,
weeks.
Right. And when it did work, it was held down because
By
the
the
hole
orgs,
wouldn't close by the org, and they would sit in there for 12 hours, like taking shifts and going to bed. Like, I don't know.
Hello.
But,
how you doing?
No shade, Mike. No shade.
How you doing?
But it felt nice to
Don't hate the player.
I've earned it. Like, yes, let's go. And I feel so cool flying around in that ship now because I don't see anybody else using it, and I worked for it, and that's great. And I feel like we need more things like that, albeit hard. Not because the game is bad and performing poorly with the thing, but hard because they designed challenging content for us. So
yeah, I would hazard a guess that even if it was working a lot better in the last few weeks, you would probably still feel very similar.
Yeah.
Like, because you're also, people are not going to be rocking that all the time. People are going to be rocking all their other ships as well. Yeah. And like, it does still take quite a long time to get them right. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then quick aside, and Mike, I said this in your chat earlier before the show when we were talking about it. Polaris owners, screw you. I could give less of a shit about your shield balance. I'm sorry. But in the course
you just made all of the solo Polaris owners cry. How do you feel?
Wicklow's not going to give you another ship, by the way. Well, you're going to get coal in your freight elevator.
You know what? Negative rep. You're not allowed to land a Crusader anymore.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, the amount of times in the pursuit of doing Hathor with my like 4-man group of friends, right, where you know we have 2 people in the hole, 3 people in the air, usually is kind of our default setup. You know, all it took was one single dude by himself in his Polaris to fly down and just park his Polaris 50 feet on top of the hole. And we can't do anything because he's got 1 million PDCs and 1 million shields, right? Like, and at the same, I think what I would love to see of the game is like the solo capital ship is unusable once engineering comes out. Like maybe you can't even undock your Idris from the docking port the minute engineering's in the game, unless there's somebody in the pilot seat and somebody snapped to the engineering terminal. Like I don't know how they'll do it, but and on the flip side of, hey, we're doing something and oh my God, there is a fully crewed Polaris. They got their 10 people on and we need to leave because this is the most terrifying thing in the game. But it's terrifying because they assembled that group of people and got everybody prepped, right? It's like, I play a lot of Tarkov and sometimes you just lose a fight because, hey, I was a solo and they brought a 5-man, right? Yeah. And maybe I got 2 of them, but yeah, they clapped me. Like, I'm not mad about those losses. And I don't think a lot of people will be mad. It's when I'm the 5-man losing to the 1-man because he pulled his credit card out more than I did.
Yeah, your problem here is you play Tarkov, so you don't have like gear fear. You don't have
that's fair.
You know,
that's
you're totally fine with PvE/VP experiences, but you're here in the Star Citizen community where literally shooting at another player is just commonly called griefing.
Yes,
when it's part of the
that's
game.
A good point.
Right, and it's like, you know, this is kind of the struggle at this point is where does, you know, it's a mentality thing with the community more than it is a problem with the game or anything like that. It's a weird situation that we're in.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when we get to like full UEE systems like Terra and Castro, we have safe zones that are true and proper safe zones. And if you want a cargo haul to your heart's content, I mean, stay in Terra and make less money. But don't have any fear that you're just going to get rolled up on by some like meta stealth hornet player or whatever and been killed, right?
Can I also say what I loved about your Tarkov example of like, you know, the 5-man killing the 1-man? Like, one thing that Star Citizen just like still doesn't have is like if you are a 1-man against a 5-man, that 5-man is so loud and so easy to avoid. You know what I mean? Like they are sprinting
shooting
all across the map.
stuff.
You know where they are at all times, and you can avoid it a lot easier. That just doesn't really exist in Star Cit. You're sort of like, oh, here's a Polaris, and everyone's there. Hello.
Well, right, but
I'm
the
dead.
Polaris also is detectable from like 20 kilometers away, and if I'm there in my fighter, like I could just leave long before they could ever see me.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you want to happen. But if it's a solo Polaris, it's like, oh, maybe which is most of them.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, maybe I'll chill. Like the essentially what I'm saying is the thing that you want,
Right.
like that can happen.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Anything else, Snugs, before we let you go?
No, that's it. But thanks, gents. Appreciate you both as always for everything you do.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
All right, bye now.
That's mate.
All right. Next caller, Croncy, you're in trouble. Burks is in the waiting room. He was coming after you in the chat. You're in trouble. We got Tumblerino in next, though. How you doing, Tumbler?
Tumblerino.
Sup?
How we doing?
What's up?
Sup indeed.
Give me a second. Let me just lower this. So about that PvP switch. Sorry. No. So there's a few points that I actually wanted to touch upon. Don't worry, I'm not gonna be here like all day, like that.
Yeah.
First and foremost, the Polaris agility. What do you guys think of it so far, personally?
I think, well, its agility didn't change much, right? It's just its pitch up, down, left, right. Like pitch and yaws is the only thing that was really nerfed, if I'm understanding correctly, with the stats that I looked at. And I flew it yesterday.
Roll got affected.
Oh, and roll, yeah, that too. That's fine. Like I'm totally fine with it. I want to see a world where big ships move super duper slow, turn really really slow, like, and yeah, it's a ship with a bunch of guns attached to it that can fight off fighters. Why does it need to like turn really quickly? Like I would love for the gameplay for a pilot in something like a Polaris be legit, where it's like, hey, our shields are at half on the right side, which is the side that's facing the Perseus, let's say, because everyone's expecting to see that soon. Let me start turning now, because it's going to be a long process to get to the other side, right?
Yeah.
And that's something I would like to see. Again, not the type of gameplay that I usually engage with, so I could be completely off base, but that's how I envision it in my pea brain when it comes to battles, right? And yeah, you want it to kind of feel like a naval battle, right? And it just doesn't right now. It still feels like dogfighting.
That's true. So one of the big problems that we have currently, as we all know, is the shield cycling, which is not a bug, but part of a mechanic that CIG didn't really foresee. But that just replaces what people really want in their capital ships, which is the ability to redirect shielding at their will. The problem is you can't do that right now, because once you try to redirect the shield to one side or the other, they don't recharge because they're under fire. So we have that big problem currently, which is something that needs to be addressed. And that's what people are trying to do with the shield cycling. There are some people that are trying to exploit, yes, but there are others that genuinely want that mechanic and trying to use that as that supplementary mechanic.
Sure.
Now, the problem with the Polaris is that one of its least amount of nerfs was the roll.
Okay.
Why do I complain about the roll? So some pilots that have a little bit more experience into the game will try to do the following. They pick up a light fighter or they pick up a ballistic ship, and they actually go for the turrets. They disable the turrets first, and then they disable the PDCs. Now, the PDCs I'll get to in a minute, but the big problem right now is the roll. The roll affects the sub-targeting a lot because it's still fast enough that causes problems when sub-targeting something.
Okay.
Especially when the turrets are not that big to begin with. And second,
PDCs are super tiny, to be clear, guys, and very hard to target.
I'll get to that point in a bit, because there's more than people know about the PDCs. The problem with the turrets, also the roll, affects that if the pilot starts unintentionally or intentionally trying to roll to avoid fire or tank with another shield face, the roll is fast enough where it can outperform the turret's acceleration and completely throw off the gunner's aims. So it's both detrimental to the
defense
attackers
and offense.
the defenders.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay,
exactly. And if you see the nerfs were about 60-something% for the pitch and yaw, which no problem there. It feels like it's supposed to. It can even go a little bit lower on the acceleration, but that's another topic. The roll itself was the least amount of tuning it got.
Interesting, and it's the most detrimental.
Exactly.
Okay.
Of all the problems. Now
there's some feedback
we
there.
touch about the turrets.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mike.
No, just there's some feedback, that they should probably take on, and hopefully people will share it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but I mean, a lot of people might not see that as problematic. In fact, I'm one of the advocates that one of the big ships' defenses is the role and the ability to tank with different shield faces, because maneuverability is not an option.
Yeah,
you need to tank with different shield faces. Either you do that by redirecting energy with shields, which is something that doesn't happen currently, and we can't do it, or you roll. So most people just roll. They rely on the roll to do so. So I can understand why they get upset with the roll, if the roll being more nerfed than it is.
Yeah.
Now, regarding
even just quickly in that example as well, like imagine how much more fun it would be to operate a Polaris if you were you were messing around with shield faces a little bit more. You were messing around a little bit more with like guns on the starboard side specifically, right? That sort of stuff. In those fights, that would make capital gameplay even better than it is.
Yeah, because that's the side you wanted to board on. It's like if CIG is looking for these what is CIG trying to appeal to with a Polaris, man? It literally looks like a Death Star, or not a Death Star, like an Imperial carrier
cruiser.
Yeah,
Like
right.
That,
yeah. So come on, what are they trying to appeal to here? They're trying to appeal to that style of sci-fi in our heads, and those ships. Have you seen them try to turn in the movies? They don't, right? And they certainly aren't rolling or anything like that. And I know it's the movies and everything like that, but at the same time, it's like, what experience are they trying to deliver for everyone in these scenarios? And it should definitely be mega slow turns. Maybe the engines move forward and quickly or whatever, or get to top speed that is not top speed of a light fighter or something or whatever. But the roll, the pitch, the yaw, those things should be I should be sitting here with my joystick, and just waiting
20 minutes until we're in a 180-degree turn.
Yeah.
Might as well use a throttle at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's completely true. And one of the things that I'm at least got wind of is that I think, or at least I heard of, don't quote me on this, take it with a grain of salt, whatever, all that disclaimers, but they want quantum boost to be a disengage kind of thing, right? They want quantum boost for you to get the hell out of that position. You don't need to target anything. You engage it and you go. You're out of the fight. You don't get to fight anymore. So roll and all those maneuvers aren't really going to be a thing, or shouldn't be a thing for those big ships. But again, they need to have the mechanics working and the turrets being effective. Another big problem for the ships. Turrets just aren't effective.
Yeah,
this has been touched on several times. This has been problematic. Make it modifiers, make it whatever you need to make the turrets fun. That's the first step for multi-crew to be a thing. It's 100%. Not the only one. It's the first one.
Yeah.
And they still haven't nailed it. And it's been many patches where they've tried it. I feel like there's been a patch where turrets have been too good once, but there's never been this nice middle ground of where they're not where they're right in the middle. It's always been they're worthless most of the time, and they were really good for one patch, I feel like.
Regarding the PTCs, Mike, that you talked about, so there's currently a situation with the PTCs that a lot of people haven't noticed. You know why they're so tiny? Because you can only target the barrel of the gun.
Oh, nice.
The peep only points at the barrel of the gun, and if you sub-target it, or even use the zoom-in fixture to see the components, there is
the only thing that lights up is the barrel.
Exactly.
I
And
never
only
noticed
the barrel
that.
takes damage.
That's funny. So you have
It
to
is.
aim
And
for the
it's
barrel of a
it's a
size 1
pain.
gun.
Is that a current patch thing, or is that like a
Yeah,
it's been
it's
forever?
it's 4.1, it's 4.1.1. Ever since the Polaris came out to the current
Ever since it
iteration of
came out.
PTU,
Okay.
it's been
So
a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's
So yeah, forever.
problematic.
Yeah.
It's problematic. Keep in mind, PDCs themselves don't have a lot of HP, so if you do hit them,
They die, yeah.
they die, and that is supposed to be. People go for the turrets first. Turrets the guard
Yep.
down. They go for the PDCs.
Yeah.
And even then, the Polaris still has the chaff and flare, which I don't understand why, because it has the PDCs. They still have chaff and flare to defend themselves against torpedoes. So even then, they're almost invulnerable to torpedoes. But that's what people do. They
But
sometimes
if they pitch
use
and they
that.
roll and they move slowly, then you can dumbfire torpedoes at them, and then it won't be as big of a problem.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And maybe even get a small pip for the dumbfire missiles or for the dumbfire torpedoes. Is that I don't mind that. I
Hey.
don't mind that. As
I'm just gonna get on my. Can I have PDCs on a reclaimer, please?
they're
the
supposed
changes,
to have.
Are they okay? Because
They're supposed to have.
the 890s getting changes. The Polaris get like they're all in the same class. But my favorite, well, one of my favorite ships is that one doesn't have the PDCs. What the hell? So
Yeah, well, they're supposed to have. That's the big thing. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look at the specs for the reclaimer, what have they announced or whatever? I think it's on the website.
PDCs
I'm
were
not 100%
involved.
sure. PDCs were there.
Okay.
And someone told me this,
we'll
and
get
I
them
was
eventually.
surprised. And I will checked, and they were right. And I was like, "Holy crap, they're actually right. It's supposed to have PDCs, and it makes sense. It's a big ass ship.
Pretty much
It
any ship
definitely
with that
makes
size
sense.
of large, it feels like it should always have some variety
Exactly.
of PDCs. Yep.
Exactly.
But anything else?
Yeah, just one more
Be
topic.
quick,
just
yeah.
please let me know if I'm extending too much.
Just be quick on the topic so we can get to somebody else, and that's it. You're good.
I don't know. This is regarding the engineering, all the engineering parts. They've been starting making some changes, and the control surfaces as well. I don't know if you spotted the I'm not sure
Probably not.
if any people. Okay, probably not, but some people in the chat might have. They started tuning in FCS controllers individual for each ship. So each ship had their individual tuning, and that an IFCS which was generic for all of them. If people check on the ESP viewer, as of the first PTU patch and forward,
this is 4.1.1 changes, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
That coupled with the Warlock and Avenger series getting their own control surfaces animated as well.
Yeah. Which we mentioned that last week. Yeah.
We're making progress steadily towards the control surfaces. I don't know when, but they're going to be a big thing.
I hope it removes nose downing, man. Nose downing is horrible.
Yeah. I am still like with control surfaces. I'm still like weird with it, just in that they didn't mention it at all last year. Right? Yeah. They showed it 2 years ago, and well, a year and a half ago now, I guess. But then they didn't show it at all at SitCon last year, and then we haven't, as far as I'm aware, we haven't heard much about it since. Obviously, they're doing something with it, like you said. They've added in the animation.
I mean, Croncy, we didn't hear much about flight last year. Like it was just defending the master mode's decisions. And that was about it. And master modes came in.
I think they're keeping it very hush hush, but they're definitely working on it on the background. Yes. Now
they don't want to suffer from the lack of like the oversharing when it comes to master modes, and then it falling flat, right?
We saw part of my French, but we saw the shit show when they announced the master modes.
Yep.
And like how that went down, like after they announced it and all the media that went after it, how it went down. I don't think they want that again, but that might be just speculation.
Yep.
So that's been a thing, and I want it to, like, you guys know me. I want nose down out. I want ground gameplay to be good, and the fact that they buffed the Animus launcher, top. It's amazing.
Is it? What do you like about it? Because
it's harder to flare
skip
off.
it. It's harder to flare off now.
It's harder to flare off. Very hard to flare off. There is a problem though. It's limited to, I think, 300 meters.
Oh,
300 meters
okay,
max. So yeah, you use it on the
Yes.
ground at like a Hathor when somebody's nose downing you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, for those that, again, Yogi is the thing. A lot of people are into it. Not a lot of people know it, but man pads, which are the anti-air portable anti-air shoulder-mounted weapons, real life, they reach about 11,000 feet into the air,
Yeah.
which corresponds to about 3 kilometers something. So I think they should like 2.5 kilometers, maybe 1.5 kilometers of range, and I think that should be balanced enough for the ground to air gameplay.
Yeah,
Of
because
portability.
if you're firing it at that range, then they have plenty of time to flare it off. But if you're firing it at 300 meters, you're going to kill them, which is basically how it would work in real life as well, right?
Yeah, you're getting caught out.
Exactly.
If you're that close and you're getting hit, you're getting caught out.
So in real life, they work as a deterrent because if you defend using the terrain and going down, those shoulder mounters get you. And if you low fly to avoid any kind of air defense in Star Citizen, that should also be a thing.
Okay.
You should also get hit by those missiles. But 300, no.
I'd love to hear that though. I want a reason to loot those missile launchers again and use them.
Yeah. Now
railguns are fun. And if we have that extra layer of more fun, I'm happy.
Railguns, I think, will be
very,
less
very
useful.
quickly, Tumblrino, because we're approaching 20
Okay, no, that's pretty much it. I won't take more of the time. I think I've already extended too much. Thank you for having me here, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
that was 20 minutes.
Almost. It was 16-ish, 16, 17
That did not feel that. I thought we were at like 10. That's when I was like, yeah, real quick, because
Tumblrino's just got banger info.
Yeah. Well, all right, Tumblr. Thank you, man.
We'll
let
guys,
you go.
Take care. Have a great podcast, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, bye now.
No worries. Have a good one.
All right, and next caller, Clever Bard. Clever Bard, can you hear us?
How we doing?
1, 2. Oh my, it worked.
Lovely.
Yay.
It did.
What's up, dude?
Not much. I actually had a couple questions for you guys. So I was in Astropub's chat last night.
Oh, he was probably having a good time. Lower guy.
Well, they were
lower show.
They were worried about reputation. And I think the chat, he was doing a good job of managing the chat. But the chat seemed to believe that because of what was said in the lore episode of ATC, that all reputation negatives are gone. And you guys have already talked about that. That's not true. But
multiple times in the video before they start talking about like the faction reputation stuff, they mentioned that they want you to have like factions that you choose from, one, right? Which already implies that you have a negative with the other, similar to like how we had with Headhunters and I've already forgotten the other one, CFP. And they want you to still make choices. So that's
like the Syndicate. And
there will still be an element of negative reputation. It was just very specific, this one thing where they were talking about landing zones.
Okay. And so that was my understanding as well. And so I wanted to, he was directing people to talk about it here, or at least, it was really neat because it actually bled into some high praise for you guys and different mixtures of other conversation. But my big thing was companies having a granular reputation versus the guilds overall having this overarching reputation is much easier to balance and keep track of. And so that's what it seems like they're doing with these companies. Instead of like Hurston has its own reputation with its shipping company, it's like, well, these are all under the guild. And then when you go down to a landing pad, you do stuff for them, but they're CFP, so your guild, your reputation's with the CFP, not with that outpost, because that's just way too granular, as far as I can tell.
For reference, at least in the video, their biggest concern and the reason they mentioned why they wanted to do this was more so that when you start gaining reputation and you go into a new system, you're not shut down all the way back down to the bottom, gaining new reputation, doing missions, like killing Auroras to gain reputation after you have been smashing through Idrises.
Well, and I think that's what people took and then said, oh, I'm not going to be shut out from anything. Therefore, well, the thing about Star Citizen is there's strings and you pull on one string and there's like 30 strings connected to it. So a lot of people don't see the multiple web of strings of things that come together. Branching very briefly into the flight model is dependent on engineering. And until we get engineering, we can't have that. Yogi has said that they are currently working on within the new flight model internally, and I think it's the new standard as far as I can tell for their internal builds. They're just not releasing any of that to us yet until they test it internally. So that sounds like
To clarify, do you know when recently Yogi has said this? Just because
it was
we haven't gotten a
within
lot of information.
within the last year, definitely with not the year, but
Sure.
within the last 3 months, it was
Okay.
in Spectrum posts. You can go back and look at everything those guys have said, and it's going to be in there.
Yep. Cool. Appreciate that.
And I guess the last thing, because I don't want to take up too much time, is the event mission audio for the Hunt the Polaris seems to imply that there are many people being brought into the mission. So I would imagine that the 1 person out of 500 is a bug. But that's just me. I don't know what you guys think
It
about
is by
It's
the patch
literally
notes.
the
It is
game
not.
design.
Yeah, I
Okay.
looked up the patch notes while we were talking. Sorry, and at the very least, by the patch notes, it specifically says will be rare, can only be accepted by 1 person, can be shared. So
Weird.
that may be a PTU specific thing,
Literal
but it is
choice.
not a bug.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a choice. I guess what I'll clarify is the audio makes it sound like the final intent is not that, but maybe they're testing something. I don't know.
They're probably telling you to get friends. To complete the mission, I mean. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you can't...
phrasing of the podcast.
Sorry, like I didn't mean it in a weird way. I meant it like, hey, you're not gonna be able to do this alone. I actually didn't hear any voice lines when I accepted it.
Well, maybe they're part of. I don't know. We're in speculation land. Maybe because it's rare and there's only 1 person. It's like, wait, how can it be rare and for 1 person? Maybe they're trying to test if they can choose 20% of a server. So now 100 people get it out of 1,000, something like that.
I don't know, but there's got to be a better way than the way they're doing it right now because it is bad.
No, I'm not a fan. Anyway, that was me for the day. I think people need to remember that reputation is going to be a little more complicated than no more negative reputation at all. I think people forget, they get scared, and
I think it's also important to remember that the narrative team, like they have a lot to do with like some of the specifics of reputation. They do not build the system itself. Like the system we actually interact with. What they're building is the story and the connections around it, as well as feeding a little bit into and collaborating a little bit with like things like rewards and whatnot. Their actual gameplay interactions are a lot less for that specific issue.
And when the designers run into a problem or create a ship, the lore team gets to just make up stuff to make it work. I love that, actually.
Yeah.
It makes
Damn
sense.
right.
But yeah,
I did see someone in chat earlier today was like, during the video, it seemed like they were just making things up in response.
Yeah.
They're the narrative team. That's what
they're
they
a dungeon master.
The
problem
problem
the dungeon master had it all written?
Is when they have to make bad decisions by design up to make it try and work, and that's when people get upset at them. It's not. There's nothing wrong with
and I think
making
that's
it up
what
as
we're
you
running
go.
into. I think that's what we're running into when we're dealing with lore coming into the game right now. They explicitly said it. It's like the lore we're making now isn't affecting players because we don't have the game functions to affect players. We will, and we are in alpha. They said that, and I think it was 1 line, but I think it was the most they could say. The best thing they could say was to say the lore team is in alpha for introducing lore into the game. So we're taking your feedback in. And I think if we're a little generous, not generous in like forgiving, but generous in our feedback of like, instead of you guys are idiots, it's like, I see what you're trying to do, and I know you don't have the tools, but this didn't land very well. Like the freedom fighters being a faction that you're not supposed to be allowed to be allied with because they're just needs to be NPCs that you can't do missions for, like PvE factions that are against everyone. People are still not used to that, and they're going to learn that they can't introduce that. Maybe this is the lesson. They can't introduce the freedom fighters as people you can do missions for and then take that away, because that's going to live with them forever now. Just introduce a faction that you cannot do missions for, and that nobody will ever think you can do missions for them. Like, who are the guys in the bunkers on Hurston?
Ninetales?
No, not Dustus.
Ninetales.
Yeah,
Nobody
Ninetales.
wants to do missions for Ninetales. You've never done missions for Ninetales. Nobody wants to. Nobody's whining about that. So I think they learned a lesson. Anyway, guys,
So you actually were
You
able to do
do-
missions for
Yeah, you do
Ninetales.
missions for
During
Ninetales.
Ninetales lockdown, you could take missions for Ninetales that would reward you for killing players. But I understand what you're saying. That example
So
doesn't work.
current players will whine about it, but future players like me who weren't a part of the old thing, they'll understand. Yeah. So no harm, no foul.
I don't think it's as much of an issue, that thing. Like, if you were a part of Freedom Fighters and now you're mad you can't be part of Freedom Fighters anymore, I don't think that's an issue, as long as they don't do it again. Like, you don't rug pull multiple times, right? You don't do that over and over and over again, because it gets old, gets boring. I think it is fine for now. And if anyone's complaining about like the fact at all that there is a faction that you can't do missions for, that's how narrative works. You need to have common enemies for players to fight against.
I'm seeing it all over Reddit. People are really upset. So
there's your problem. You're on Reddit.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, you guys are awesome. Thank you, and enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you. You too, Bard.
Yeah, you too.
Be good, man.
Thank
See you
very much
soon.
for calling in.
Be good.
Bye now. Reddit. All right, let's go to Burks. Burks is our next caller, and then we're gonna try Cannibal again. His third try. What's up, Burks?
Hey, Burks.
What's up, guys? What's up?
Hello.
All right. So, Croncy, I just came in here to tell you that you're wrong about that. Kidding. I think that I was just misunderstanding you at first. Was all.
I
made a post on Spectrum.
I am all for punishment for like really people doing really bad things that mess with other players.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just PvP, but like, messed up things. But that was.
I was like, oh no, my friends are fighting. No.
Yeah. So it's funny because I actually made a post on Spectrum about 2 months ago talking about how I think the reputation and criminal system should change. And that was part of it, was that people doing Vaughn missions should be ranked differently than people going around just murdering players.
100%.
And I think the thing is the people who are serious about it, right? Who actually want to play the criminal want the more consequences.
Yep.
They want it to be hard mode. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as it's like sort of in the same vein. Now, in the terms of locking people out of places, I really think that yes, you shouldn't maybe be locked out of certain like main locations, quote unquote, like landing zones. Unless you're like, a super hardened criminal or whatever, you've done something, really egregious, whatever. But I do think there should be additional locations that rep earns you that not everyone can go to. That's what I want. So you are locked out of places, but you're locked out of like high tier.
It's like a positive lockout. It's because I've done so many good things. I'm allowed in, you're not.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been able to find Jumptown without earning it. You shouldn't be able, Burks mentioned in the chat, like Grimhex. Like, you should not be able to even know where Grimhex is. It's hard with Yella. That's the kind of the problem with Grimhex is the Yella Asteroid Belt's so tiny that like you fly around it, you're gonna find it. But
there it is.
But the idea in general is that sentiment makes so much sense to me.
And there's some cool dynamics there if they bring PvP bounty hunting back, right? The criminals get to station out of Grim while bounty hunters have to literally fly there manually.
What is going on with these missions? Why, like the PvP bounty missions? They have been on the list of like a blocker every single PTU, and then no work
I'm
towards
depressed
it.
about it.
Yeah,
I'm depressed about it. I wake up every day wanting to play Star Citizen. I fly around with nothing to do because I miss my PvP bounty hunting. It's all I used to do.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know what the deal is. It broke with server meshing, I guess. They were broken before server meshing, for the record. They've been broken for about a year now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Like, think about just how different the recent events would have been and like current Align Online would be with these.
With bounties.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It'd be so different.
And comm arrays working properly where you can take them down and stuff. There's actually something there. But I completely agree. I just think the dynamics of reputation need to change in a big way. But I actually came in to talk about the Polaris because I genuinely believe that Star Citizen needs a huge injection of fun in multi-crew. Like it needs to be like their almost number one priority on the ship combat team. Because live fighters are I know they're going to change it, but live fighters are in a pretty decent place, like balance wise. I don't think they're super strong. You know, like if you dogpile on one guy, like two decent fighters on a really good pilot, like most of the time they're going to come out on top.
Yeah.
Like they're not crazy strong. The Hornet's a little OP. But the Polaris, for example, nerfing the shields, I think was a big mistake. The maneuverability, no. But like I think shields should work a lot differently, actually. I think for example, I think it'd be cool if capital ships had 3 maybe times the health that they had before this nerf, but shields go down, or sorry, come up really slow, like 15-20 minutes outside of combat. That way, when your shields go down in combat, you have to make a conscious decision. Are we going to ride this out? Are we going to win this? Or do I need to get out and like completely disengage? The fight's over, basically.
That might be interesting.
And then
I think that's reasonable too.
Here's the trade-off.
Even just like sci-fi too.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it works in sci-fi, right? Shields go down, that's it.
Yeah. And so I think the trade-off, and you know, let's keep in mind the Polaris has a lot of like whole health, like a lot. Well, a single fighter is not going to take down a Polaris in less than like 30 minutes, maybe longer. But and I feel like that's reasonable. Here should be the trade-off. Capital ships are way too weak offensively, right?
Yes.
So if I get within 2K of a capital ship, they should be like home base in a fight. Yeah. If I get within 2K of an enemy capital ship, I should feel like I messed up. Like I have no reason to be there if they have people on it. But the turret guns need to be more fun.
Yep.
I'm
Tumblr
worried about
had
how
a similar
engineering's gonna
feeling,
play
right?
into this. Yeah,
because it's come up multiple times as people have said the turret guns aren't fun. I don't think they're not fun. I think the gameplay itself is fun. They're not very effective,
which makes them not fun.
Yeah, they're not very balanced.
Winning is fun.
I think it is fun. They've done that, but yeah,
killing things is fun.
Well, it's like, yeah, fun in terms of like you know you put a controller in your toddler's hands and say, hey, you know, go wild, bro. Like in a serious fight, you are doing nothing in a turret.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and I agree with you, by the way, like the experience of getting in a turret's fine, but I think like who are going to be your turret gunners? Like
your worst players.
Ship? Well, yeah, true. But also,
Mike.
Well, maybe like your worst fighters.
I'm also a lifelong turret player. Like,
yeah, maybe your worst fighters, but I was going to say your engineers should also be your turret gunners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you need to feel swappable. Like, and I think that's why they should go with more of a balance. Like it's easier to take out turrets, but they do a lot of damage. Like I could target a turret on a Polaris for, you know, 15-20 seconds and it go down temporarily. And then I'm like, okay, I got to fix this. I get out, boom, 10 seconds. I do like the engineering thing and I'm back in. Like I'm worried that engineering's not going to feel enough, like dynamic enough. And I'm worried
even
that
reloading
you're not going
them
to feel
ballistic wise too.
Yeah. And I think like, for example, there should be a mini game, like some sort of task, right? People hate when I say mini game, but some sort of task where you could be doing something in the back where you're actually, 40% more to power, 20% more to boost, whatever. You know, you're doing something successfully in the back mid-fight and it's changing the outcome of the fight. Like you need to feel like I just did something in this fight, you know? And right now it's impossible to feel that way unless you're in your own ship. Like hardly ever does the Polaris turrets ever do anything meaningful. I mean, maybe I'm looking at this through the wrong perspective. Like maybe there's a couple of people out there who are like, you're wrong. I feel like I get kills all the time in the Polaris turrets.
Just to be clear, let me jump in for you here in your defense. You're talking about PvP. In PvE, of course, a turret can get a kill, and of course they can feel like a superstar, like they're playing Squadron 42. But you're mostly talking about PvE, correct? Or PvP?
I am, but this is also a good point, you know, because I think there's a lot of community sentiment about PvE being easy. Yeah. And I dream of a day where PvE is actually really hard in some areas, like Vandal and other people.
It's just the ships kind of,
I would love.
They will kind of fly by your turret a little slower than the average pilot, like player run pilot would, right?
Yeah. I just think in terms of overall accessibility, they need to be thinking about this stuff in way more fun injection. Like A2 bomb should have a co-pilot, and the co-pilot can control the bomb like a Helldiver pod. Seriously. Like, I'm being serious. The co-pilot in the Polaris should be able to change the shield emitters. And you're talking about the Perseus being on the right-hand side. Well, let's send 50% more power over there mid-fight and transfer it over. But a co-pilot has to do it. Let me control the PDCs. Even if maybe I'd be worse, it's fun. give me a 3D view of the ship with like incoming torpedoes and stuff that I can like highlight priority targets, stuff like that. Like, seriously, that's the kind of stuff they need if people are going to be in the same ship in the future. Like, if they have a serious problem, and that serious problem is people are not going to want to get in the same ship because it's just doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel effective.
I wonder
maybe
how
in
much
PvE it feels fun, but
it does, but it also feels just as boring at a point where you're just kind of sitting there, doing nothing. And if begging the pilot to pitch up a little bit because my turret doesn't aim that far in that direction or whatever too. But the thing that I have is, are they going to be able to do this now if their initiative is just about fixing bugs? Because all of that stuff potentially sounds like feature work, and that's kind of like, ugh.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of there is at least a portion of what Burks is saying that also Tom Marina mentioned earlier that could be done through balance.
Yeah.
I hope so. That would at least do something, right?
It would be a good start. Make a weapon, and people say modifiers. I think modifiers is fine, but I actually think it would be maybe easier for CIG to make a weapon that can only be equipped to turrets, not a pilot turret. If it can be controlled by a pilot, it cannot go in that slot. But only turrets, and it moves at 2,500 meters a second. It does like NDB damage, and people are going to say that's crazy, but maybe make multi-crew OP for a couple of patches or a patch or two and see what happens. See what happens.
I'm more
right
of
now,
the like,
nobody wants to get in the same ship.
I'm more of the like, push a little bit in one direction and go, okay, that wasn't enough. Push a little bit more. Okay, that wasn't enough. Push a little bit more. And because, dude, you've been around for a while, right? How many times have they swung the pendulum so far in one direction, swung it back all the way in the other direction? And it's just like, we never settle on anything. It's always everybody's just constantly getting thrown in one direction, and it just doesn't work. That has not worked. So like,
I do agree. Maybe it shouldn't be like a massive change.
Sure.
But I think even like I'm saying, like, again, 2,500 meters a second weapon and NDB damage probably wouldn't be insane.
Okay.
Again, and the idea would be maybe they literally do a hard cutoff on damage after 2K meters.
Exactly.
Right?
And
so
then it's like, if a fighter gets too close, you die, right?
Yep. So it's like, if you're in 2,000 meters of a turret, you're in danger. If you're not within 2,000 meters or you're out of sight, you're good. And the skill of a light fighter is actually avoiding those. And maybe that'd be too strong. Maybe they could like work their way up. But I think it'd be a good start. They should be testing stuff like that, I think.
Yeah.
You know where they should be testing this stuff?
Arena Commander.
No, the test preview, Mike.
Well, the thing that they said that they were going to do 4 months into the year, they've done, or 5 nearly now, they have never done a single one of those. Yeah, that's been awesome. I love this company. I love this game. I really do. They're so awesome. They're so awesome. They hate me so
thanks
much.
for calling in, Burks. Anything else?
No. I think that's it. I was trying to think if there was anything else, but no. Yep. I just wanted to complain about multi-crew.
Yeah. Good.
As someone who is
doing it.
avid light fighter pilot, I love flying light fighters. I don't fly multi-crew ships. I'll never fly multi-crew ships. I specifically tell people that I probably will never fly anything bigger than like a Zeus MR, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will advocate for multi-crew because I think it's really important.
Okay. I fell in love with this game because I can be a turret pilot.
Yeah, and I think the most OP thing in this game should be getting in a ship with your friends and owning. Like that should be it. Just like Sea of Thieves, just like any other game that has done multi-crew really good. So, anyways,
all right, Guns of Icarus.
Can't disagree with that. All right, bro.
Yeah,
be good.
Have a good one, man.
All right, he popped out. Are we gonna try him? I'm not even putting his name up. Not even putting
really
his name
quickly
up.
we should, because it was also the question that I wanted to touch on
Of
today
course,
as well.
of course,
his
of course.
question.
I'm just kidding. Of course we're gonna try.
Yeah.
I heard a noise. Cannibal, are you here?
Cannibal?
Hey guys.
Yay!
Let's go.
It's been 2 weeks.
We're finally on.
Yeah.
No, I was so fucking miffed earlier because I've been in here and I was like, all right, here we go. And then computer.
Oh, get out of here. Oh, that sucks.
And like I said in chat the last week, I got kind of yanked by the powers that be.
Understood. All right.
Being a 4-year-old with a coloring book.
There you go. All right, well that's good to know, because I was like, is this guy just like getting in and doesn't really know the? It's like he's been on the calls before. I don't know.
He's just waiting for another chance to talk about the Arastra.
Yeah, which leave that alone.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about today?
So I have a couple things I can talk about. We could talk about the question I put in questions, the question I had last week, which
Croncy really wanted to. So if you want to start with that, that'd be good.
we can. Well, let's do that. So my question was, I'm just gonna read off a script here. What do you think about different gamer cultures driving the development of this game? When do you think we'll see the defeat of the elite refugees by some man's Sky Gang?
So I said this to Mike. I have an interpretation of your paragraph, because it's
all right, let's
worded
go.
very weirdly. I assume what you're saying is because there's so many different types of people that want to play Star Citizen and have different expectations for Star Citizen.
There's like Tarkov
Like, what does that
players
look like?
versus elite
for sure.
players versus web CCU gamers. Like, it's like there's lots of different gamers here.
Like I can identify an Eve player almost immediately when the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, "Well, could you afford
ammo.
what you just flew?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be economy related every time.
Yeah, it's always everything is transactional with Eve players. So, but like elite players, generally people who like elite really like it for either A, getting really lost in the black, or B, they really like PvP in ships and dogfighting. And then I don't know why people like No Man's Sky.
But game has been good recently. I actually, like, every time they've put it up a new expedition, I've given it a go, and it has been a lot of fun. But it does very much just feel like satisfactory in space, but less. So it's it does not feel like a Star Citizen or an Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, like something Mike said earlier in the week was he was talking about how like we were talking about how like sometimes we need planets to have nothing on them, and I was like, yeah, people are gonna like bring up how Starfield has like is just barren, and those are just not fun planets. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have No Man's Sky, where every planet has something, and it just turns into this kind of white noise.
I don't mean, so like, let me just clarify what I mean by that is I think like Pyro 1, for example, like when you try to land there, your ship's computer should say no. That's what I mean. Is like we shouldn't be able to go everywhere, because it makes no sense that like a human can exist and not like be crushed into dust or melted by acid, or you know what I mean? Like there's just some places that you can't go. And that's like we can't fly to the sun in Star Citizen yet, at least, but like maybe we shouldn't be able to, because our ships would melt or overheat or something like that, right? And that's kind of what I mean by that. It's just is sometimes your ship's computer should be like, that is a not just a barren wasteland, but like instead of barren wasteland, like a dangerous place that you can't go, and that's why nobody goes there, and there's nothing of value there. And or maybe, Hathor lasers get used, and that's how things are extracted, and orgs are taking Hathor lasers and placing them above the planet to extract whatever's on those planets from outside instead of actually landing on them. That's more of what I meant by that.
What you're saying is we need moon mining.
That would be sweet. So through your, let me lower your. Oh, you're at 200% for some reason. So let me lower you.
Yeah, because I was probably really quiet for a previous call.
Yeah, it's all good. It happens all the time. And then I'll bring Croncy up because the levels for the show have been all over
A little
the place.
different,
So
yeah.
I apologize, guys, on that front.
Yeah.
I think Croncy's going to be low this show, unfortunately.
He seemed fine earlier, but
okay, that's good. I'm glad. I was worried.
Yeah.
But continue. What else? Because for me, it's just straight up like, to go on your point is, see, the only time that you're gonna decide who wins of like what refugee is trying to is it gonna be a WoW player? Is it gonna be who's it gonna be? An Eve player? It's gonna be when CIG just sits down and tells you what the game is instead of bullshitting you about what it is and then selling you another spaceship. And then until then, we're not gonna know what the game is, and you're not gonna be able to sit down and say, all right, this game is for you, and by the way, you over there, this game is not for you, which exists in every other game that on planet Earth, right? Is like, you find out real quick that Tarkov might not be for you, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. So yeah.
You find out real quick that like EVE Online's not for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
To my point that I mentioned before the podcast, even that like, lots of different people from lots of different games have different expectations of the game. A lot of them are coming from games that have not spent $800 million over the course of the last, well, not necessarily spent, but gotten that much money over the course of that amount of time for a game that isn't released yet. It is extremely likely that CIG are going to have to try to appeal to as many people as possible, which I think they can do, but it is going to mean a lot of people that are playing the game right now, almost certainly myself included, it's not going to be the game I want. It's going to be a game I will play, and it's going to be a game I will enjoy. It is not going to be
the perfect,
this is where I want Star Citizen to be.
Yeah, the perfect idea that you have in your head.
Exactly. Yeah.
We should also get very comfortable with the idea that, this is an MMO, and it will change drastically even after release, after its 1.0 launch, after it's, 5 years into active or sustained development with 3 expansions under its belt. I didn't have to use an industrial core for my Orca in EVE like 3 years ago, but now it requires heavy water to do the things that it needs to do.
Not to get on EVE, but literally, I was in a mining fleet yesterday, and everybody was shitting on the Orca and said you should not use it. It's a total piece of shit.
Okay. Ouch.
Yeah.
As someone who's a dedicated mining support character and like Tier 5 skills for the Rorqual. But to be fair, the Orca was gone through like a lot of, I don't know if you know this, Mike.
I don't. I just skilled into it yesterday.
Yeah.
Nice.
The dev like pathway for mining has gone through like significant changes in the past 6 years, where they wanted to make mining more engaging. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to talk about is so
yeah, don't go on to EVE stuff
mining
because
more engaging.
Don't talk about EVE now. Don't. Just DM me or something. There's no point in sharing any of this stuff for anybody who's listening to this right now. I'm interested.
No, you're right.
But I'm the only one who's interested in this. So just it is not for right now.
Yeah. But like
I know about crystals and stuff. Don't worry.
Yeah, fair.
Okay.
That is something I would like to see. I think that like part of like what I guess my gamer culture is what I would like to see out of the game is like I would like to see more like aggressive attrition based mining or resource gathering, where that was something I kind of felt was weird about the Golem. That's a different topic altogether. But there are like mining crystals that you can use that waste material more than they gather material, but they do it very quickly. I think that would be interesting to bring into like the design philosophy for Star Citizen, but Star Citizen doesn't have a gameplay loop that supports that design philosophy yet.
That's what exactly I was going to say. You can't like I do like that in EVE you have that ability to use a resource to gain a resource in like a different way. But the way that like mining, for example, works in Star Citizen, it cannot be that cannot just be crossed over, right?
No.
Right.
A lot of the time spent in mining in Star Citizen, or even salvage, because at least in this aspect they're similar, is finding the thing. In Eve, you jump to asteroid belt. I did it. I'm so good at this game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then
and so
literally
like
click
those
F1
sort of things,
and
are
then
different.
that's it. Yeah, like you don't
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would like that. I would like to see them mess around a little bit more with that, and maybe they will in the future with the fact that we're supposed to be getting different quality of minables and resources of all kinds. Maybe they will implement something like that. Obviously, the gadgets are like a sort of step in that direction, but they've got an awkward design to them. They're not very intuitive. So yeah.
Yeah, that brings me back to my complaints about the Arastra. Anyways, I liked how Burks brought up the gating stuff though, because it reminded me of how Elite Dangerous manages Terra, and a few other faction HQs. You have to get to a certain point in the faction to get to those places.
Yeah.
I have a few other notes.
Probably one
I have a
last thing
Blade
because we're
X4.
about 10 minutes in.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. Multi-crew is not strong enough. It should be It should be multiplicative.
Yep.
Whole excessive shield damage strains your shield generator. I don't know. Maybe like a hard drive. The more the shield regens, the more damage you do to your shield gen. You have to repair it. Might help
The more you
with
use something, it makes sense.
having to. Might help with attritioning down capital ship shields. And then, yeah, I think the capital ship movement changes are overall fine. Like, we had this issue with War Thunder when they implemented naval at first, where everyone was a lot of the criticisms from the devs was you don't want naval, ships are too slow. They put in naval, and ships were in fact very slow, but people don't care because big fucking salvos from 17 kilometers away is really funny. So I think I think one of Polaris, the reason why people ram Polarises so often is because torpedo salvos just cannot get close enough or have such a low hit ratio. Making the actual turrets on the Polaris more effective at range probably would help with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Allowing torpedoes to target different parts of the ship instead of all going to the center of the ship would probably help with that.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of it's a lot of dev work that they have to put in, and they got to focus on other stuff right now, which is fine.
Fix some bugs instead of selling some ships, and maybe we would be in a much better place. But for now, it's just, I mean, the bugs keep coming. But all right, Cannibal, because your mic's getting a little crazy as well. We'll let you go, and it's about time for the show. It's good. It's good. I think it's just like your fan in the background. It's getting picked up or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do have a fan.
Yeah, but
we're for calling in.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes past when we would end the show anyway. So we wanted to make sure we got you in and gave you your time because it's been such a pain to get you on there. But,
sorry about that.
And you've been sitting in line and waiting and being a patient guy. So we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, easy. Hopefully we call in again soon.
Yes.
Yeah, too easy.
All right, man.
Cheers,
Be
mate.
good. Take it easy. Bye now. All right, and that's where we leave it. And yeah, I don't know. What are your feelings just real quick before we go? Like, we got 4.1.1 on the horizon. Is there anything exciting that could possibly happen next week? Did they say at the end of SCL what ISU would be?
They did.
Okay.
They did. So it's a ship talk, and it's about the first ship coming in Invictus.
Oh, so it's another ship sale episode. Okay.
Yeah. I imagine it'll be the Stalin's attack.
Probably because they already have it.
It's pretty early out from Invictus. It's one that they can show and it not be.
They've already shown it basically because
exactly
it's in game with guns. That's a fair assumption, and those are fun, but like most people that are calling in, it's the the F words that we want to start seeing, I think we're starting to feel the pain of their choices for the year, and it's I want to hear features.
Yeah.
I think it's
fun and features.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that pain, and listen, I'm not saying that they have to make features, but I'm starting to feel it from their choices from this year. That doesn't mean that I want them to change what they're doing. I think the initiative they are going with is the right one still. It's just starting to feel it. And I think everyone is, just based off of the direction of the conversations that we've had. Yeah, we can go with the F word fixes or the F word features. Where did you go, Croncy?
I don't know. What did you do?
Oh, you got small. Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, we got the F word fixes, and we need more of those, but I'd love to see a feature or two as well. It'd be nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you are watching at home, please make sure to like the video, subscribe so you can see some more Answer the Call stuff. If you are watching here on Twitch, make sure to follow Mike and myself, and make sure you call in next week. But obviously, don't forget, Mike.
I didn't. To answer the call. Oh, yeah, I have to do it this time.
There we go.
You started. Nice. Don't forget to answer the call.